Hi, my name is Gavin Smith. I'm an artist for a bunch of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics and Heartpiercer from Dark Horse, and you're listening to 11 O'Clock Comics.
Hello folks, back again. It still sounds a little weird. We should have these technical difficulties fixed by next week, so everything should sound right in your ear holes. As usual, this is 11 O'Clock Comics, episode 941. I am your host, David A. Price, and with us we have...
Yeah, we have straight from the Paris Olympics, where I was watching my lovely wife win gold again. I'm Jonathan Owens.
No! Congratulations, by the way, but you are not Jonathan Owens. You are Jason Wood, everybody. And he is not alone, because we decided to bring somebody along with us for the fun this week. And who is that, Jason?
That's our dude. That's our guy who this year found time in his busy schedule to hang out with us shortly after San Diego Comic-Con, because he usually blows us off at actual cons that we're attending together. But no, it's our boy, Mr. Fourth Chair, back again, Mr. Tony Fleecs.
Hey guys, it's been a little while. It's been a long time for me.
Yeah, no, it's been a minute. It's like pre-Feral releasing. Yeah, right? It was before last time.
Yeah, I believe I annoyed you guys enough with my hardcore promoting that you were like, we need a little me time.
No, you know what it was? It was that you had the fucked up audio. Then it was like, we got to put him on double probation for a month.
Wait, do I still have that?
No, you sound okay today.
No, you sound good. You sound good. Yeah, we fixed that in pre.
Nice.
But and as usual, before we get to the fun stuff, even funner stuff, because we get to talk about things you can buy. This episode, as usual, is sponsored by cheapgraphicnovels.com. This week's release email that Max sends out on Mondays, this was a good one, because you had there were four things, one of which Max's pick actually should be in my next shipment. But you've got the Absolute All-Star Superman hardcover. This is the 2024 edition. That, of course, collects the 12 issues of that series. You've got Hitman by Garth Ennis and John McCrae, Omnibus Volume 1. It's a hardcover collecting Hitman numbers 1 through 33. Annual number 1, The Demon, numbers 42 through 45, 52 through 54, and Demon Annual number 2. For Jason, you've got a new printing of The Uncanny X-Force by Rick Remender.
Indeed,
Omnibus.
that's true.
This is the 2010 series that collects numbers 1 through 35, 5.1, 19.1, material from Wolverine, Road to Hell, and all new Wolverine Saga. And Mac,
all-time non-X-Men comics run, like non-mutant comics run.
Top 3 all time.
Okay.
Yeah, like if you were to throw out names, like if you were like say, oh, what about Davis Excalibur, or if you were to run through the list of non-titular X-Men mutant comics, like Sienkiewicz New Mutants, if you were to go through that list, I would posit that Remender X-Force is in that top 3.
I feel like that's a strong case could be made for that, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's definitely helped with the Opeña art, so it's a beautiful run.
I think it's one Remender comic all time.
Oh,
why'd we have him back? What was that?
Right? I mean, and Max's pick, which this is for Vince, is Den Volume 2, the Movovum hardcover, and like I said, that's on its way to me, and I cannot wait to dig into that. So that's that's from cheapgraphicnovels.com. Hit the website, pre-order or order any of the ones I just mentioned. Check out what's coming out soon. When you get your order, after your first order, send Max an email letting him know EOC sent you, and you will get free shipping on your second order. So that's when you want to stock up. But yeah, by all means, check out the site. Fantastic stuff. Max is a great dude overall. We have someone who knows him personally speaking to you tonight. So yeah, cannot beat the deals he has going on over there. So that's it for the spot. What's the usual business we're going into now?
Well, we got to do. I mean, since I have two depraved human beings on with me tonight, I will ask what y'all are drinking. I would admit I just had a sugar-free Red Bull, believe it or not. Yeah, I just wanted some caffeine. Didn't have any coffee made, and so that was my outlet. But I'm going to be drinking water after that, so nothing too exciting.
Okay.
I'm not that exciting either. I had the end of a bottle of Dewar's, but it's like just, I would say like a quarter of a cup, like just like half a drink, and that's all I really got. I think I might have some beer in the crisper, so I might get in there, but who knows? Who knows how we're doing? It's been a long day.
It's too bad we're not doing video. We could have walked with you to the.
It's like lunchtime for you.
It is right over here.
Close to it, yeah.
Yeah.
I did not feel like cooking tonight, and we were both kind of white, so we just we ordered pizza, and so naturally with pizza, I tend to sip on some wine with that. So I am enjoying a glass of Milk Keeper, which is a beautiful Cabernet Sauvignon from California, since Tony's here, and it is I've had it before. It's kind of, it's not necessarily a go-to, but when I see it, it's a visual reminder that I do enjoy. The label's kind of funky, but I do enjoy this cab. So I'll finish this glass and then head to water.
Okay.
Love it.
So we are recording this mere days after the San Diego Comic-Con. And first of all, Tony, we should ask how your experience was, because you are a regular attendee and you were there this year.
Yeah, it was good. I went this year. I didn't have any new business to unveil. I was there just sort of like maintaining old business. Like I was promoting the books that are going on. So I had signings at the Image booth for Local Man and for Feral, and then and we were nominated for the Eisner for Local Man. So Tim Seeley and I went to that. Tim Seeley wore shorts to the ceremony. We lost, and then we had signings. Like I set up a signing at like a retailer booth every day with me and Trish and Tone, the team from Feral, and so we all got to sort of like basically sit down for 2 hours a day inside the convention and sort of have people know where they could come find us. And that was cool because it meant like you were busy the whole time. There was never like, sometimes, if you're sitting at a show all day, you'll hit a lull. And this was just like all activity the whole time. And then you could get up and go, chill out or do something else or go hang out with people or do meetings or, So yeah, it was low key. I had panels. I made friends with Amanda Connor.
Oh, did you now?
That was good. Big fan of hers. And I sat next to her on 2 panels, and I'm charming, and so
of course
we made friends.
Respect, dude.
Yeah.
So when you since you're a regular there and you're a West Coast guy, do you feel compelled to play the role of tour guide for I assume like Trish and her husband, did they go for? Is this their first time, or did they go for Stray Dogs?
She came out for Stray Dogs. Her husband didn't come with, so not really that much of a tour guide. I mean, I don't know that much more about the Gaslamp than anybody else that's down there that goes to Comic-Con every year. So it's more just like we go to the same places we normally go. There's a very accessible outdoor tiki bar next door at the Marriott, and so I sort of will guide people over to that because that's a nice, like, sort of the opposite of the hustle and bustle of Comic-Con is like sitting next to a pool and having, expensive tiki drinks. I mean, the expensive part is the same, but just sort of like after going for, I guess I've probably been going for about close to 20 years now. You sort of figure out like the hacks and the best ways to make it through a whole convention and have it be sort of like breezy and nice, and because I'm not there for exclusives and I'm not even really there for like networking is nice, but I'm not there hustling for work, and you're not sitting in Ars Alley taking on commissions and so it is, like I said, just mostly there to promote the stuff that we already got. Like me and Trish and Tone being there to sign stuff sort of like helps strengthen that brand for another, hopefully holds those people with us for another year or so.
Yeah.
And
so the most important question though is this. As you know, your boys have never been out that way.
Yeah.
I've been to San Diego, but not for Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And every year we kind of like, maybe we should do it one of these years. But then, as you know, like you have to commit. So it's like, if we're going to do it, we have to plan nearly a year in advance, right? So you kind of need to decide like, okay, next year is the year. So my question to you is, knowing us as well as you do,
yes,
and having nearly 20 years by your own admission of understanding San Diego, and heroes, you've been heroes, you obviously know New York Comic Con, so you know the cons we're used to. Do you think, all else being equal, it would be worth it one of these years for us to make the trip there? Do you think we would find it as a convention enjoyable enough, beyond just the thing of like we could say that we went?
So like the one, I think, plus side that San Diego has over New York are Heroes, and Heroes is your perfect show.
Sure.
I think you guys have found the spot for what you're looking for.
Yeah.
But San Diego has the gas lamp, which is cool because there's all kinds of extra stuff going on there. And also there's just like a ton of different places to eat or drink or meet with people, or like there's just like stuff going on there. There's Nobu, there's fucking
right. Whereas for people that don't know, like where if you go to New York, and maybe hopefully most of you know because you've heard us recap it, but one of the downsides of New York Comic Con in the Javits Center where it is that it's really nothing around it. I mean, it's a little better now than it used to be because of Hudson Yards, but it's still pretty much there's no sense of community at New York Comic Con outside of the building, because people literally just go across not just Manhattan but all the boroughs depending on where your Airbnb or hotel is, and they just it's pockets of little get-togethers based on pre-existing friendships. Then like you said, a lot of cons are at sort of one or two big watering spots, and you may look over and see one of your all-time favorite creators just grabbing a drink next to you, or you look across and you see some legend meeting up or hanging out with people you didn't know they know. So that doesn't really exist in New York Comic Con as much, but it sounds like San Diego that's more the vibe.
Yeah, San Diego still has that sort of like, I mean, there are parties, like you'll end up bouncing around to a bunch of different like publisher parties and stuff, but they're also still pretty close together for the most part. And so it's not like in New York, it's like if there's a publisher party, you're like hopping in a cab and you're going somewhere, and then you're not going to bump into anybody else from the convention once you get let out of that party,
Yeah.
So
you didn't answer the question.
I mean, honestly, I think Heroes is your spot. I would like San Diego has cool stuff and there's a ton of people there, but it's just so hectic and like it's like all the hustle and bustle of New York Comic Con. It's just sunnier, and there's sort of more stuff to do after hours. But I feel like if you guys made a commitment and came out here, I would feel bad because you'd be like, that wasn't the best.
See, Dap, this is a true friend. He's being honest because every other person I hear is like, oh, you gotta go to San Diego. You guys would love it. It's gonna be amazing. I'm like, yeah, but you guys know that like we like Artist Alley, we like bin diving, and I'm like, those are the two things that it's not known for. And then people would be like, oh, well, yeah, but it's San Diego. And it's like, I'm like, all right. I'm like, again, I am intrigued at the idea of saying I did like, because I don't know about you guys, but well, probably doesn't happen to Tony because he's in the business for real. But Dap, like, I'm sure you've been a million times. People have been like, oh, have you been to San Diego? Have you been to Comic Con? And like, literally anytime someone finds out I'm a comic book fan, the first thing is, have you been to San Diego? Like, not like, oh, do you go to conventions, or have you been in New York? And I'm usually smart. It's like, well, actually, go to New York every year, and it's bigger than San Diego. But like the point is it is like this strange. There is this meta epicness to it, from back. Obviously, I guess mainly because it used to be the like the convention, and it was a place as a result where all the publishers broke all their big news for the year. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would like to go, all things being equal, but it would require a lot of preparation, a lot of planning, and a decent amount of money, because you got to fly across country. So I need to be, like, every year I say I need to be convinced that we're gonna have a great time though. Like, it can't be a coin toss.
And also for the thing that you like to do, like where you like to set up a bunch of commissions and go around and see people and stuff like that. I feel like Heroes in New York are better spots for that.
Just because
New York has a bigger artist alley, and the way that it's set up, like all the pros are in artist alley.
Yeah.
San Diego sort of has it broken up where it's like it'll be like comic sketch art tables, and that'll have them there sometimes, like on the schedule sometimes, where sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. Or like an artist has a booth, like Arthur Adams or somebody has a booth.
Yeah.
And then in those cases, a lot of times they're selling, prints and merchandise and books and stuff like that, but they're not necessarily doing the commission hustle all the time. So
sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me.
Well, but
I can drive to it.
Right. Yes, we could just stay at Tony's. The whole. Yes, Tony's a true friend by looking out for us, although he may also want to just keep it all for himself. But yes, every time
he's like, if you guys schlep out there, I'm going to have to entertain you, and that sucks.
Right, exactly. He's like, I don't have time to hang out with you guys. But whenever I put time in at work and I'm asked, or it comes up, oh, is there another convention? And I'll say yes. It's like, oh, you're going to San Diego? It's like, no, bro. It's fucking April. We're going to Chicago. Like, what the no one's. So there's always that. But it's, for me, in my mind, were I to ever go to San Diego, the best time for me to have attended was back in the late 80s and early 90s. That was before, of course, the pop culture boom and
yes, of course. I mean,
right? No, that's what I'm saying. So I still
back to the Big Apple Hotel Con and buy those Kirby pages for $50.
Absolutely, 100%. But so that said, yes, I would still like to go to San Diego just to at least say, knowing that it's not going to be what it was or the way it is now. At least, yes, we finally went to San Diego. I do like what I am picturing in my mind now, knowing that we wouldn't be able to do the usual con stuff that would take a load off of Jason, where he's not trying to wrangle commissions, hit everybody up months in advance, and then run around so we could find commissions. And Vince and I would have a ton of back issue diving to do. We could actually go there and just exhale and relax and see people and just kind of take it all in without us having some sort of mission that we had to accomplish like we do at New York or Heroes. So I like the idea of us just going there and kind of being wrapped in it, but not having to do the usual. But yeah, it's still there would be, and it's so big that I mean, we might see Tony like for 5 minutes, not even that, like on one day out of the 4. So I mean, it's going to be nuts, and I understand that. But yes, it's still something that we would absolutely have to plan out. Hell, I at this rate, I see us going to Tokyo before going to San Diego.
Now we're talking. All right, so but that all said, I have to say this felt like an unusual, like this felt more in terms of news, like a bigger news breaking San Diego than we've had in a long time. Because I feel like the last few years it's been like, oh, there's nobody breaks news at San Diego anymore. And I feel like this year, I don't know why, but
it seemed remember last year on like the TV side there were no news because of the strikes.
Right. Right. So it felt like there was a decent amount of news that certainly was worthy of discussion. So I've got, it's not a game per se, but I've got 4 categories for you guys. I'm going to let our guest pick the first of 4 categories of San Diego Never Lose. So your categories are Marvel, DC, Other and the Eisners.
Well, I was at the Eisners, so I'm gonna pick Other.
All right, Other, bet. Okay. So Dap, Star Trek Section 31 movie thoughts.
Oh, I haven't. One of our buddies, Brian Newberry, sent me a link of like the breakdown. I haven't read it yet. I thank them for the heads up and for the link, but I haven't delved into it because certain things I don't want to know nothing about it. I knew that the movie was coming. I knew that Philippa was going to be the lead, and I love seeing her regardless. So Michelle is going to be in something. I'm there regardless. But yes, I am. Section 31 is one of my absolute favorite concepts within Star Trek. Jason gifted me a digital box set of the 4 Section 31 novels years ago, and it went across all 4 at the time. This was pre Paramount Plus days. So this was before Discovery, and the Section 31 series ran throughout the 4 live action shows. So I really, really like Section 31 because it also it's antithetical to the whole idea of the Federation and Starfleet and Star Trek. So it's weird, but I like that it exists. So yeah, to find out about those possibly early days of Section 31, I'm here for it. I cannot wait for this movie to come out, and I hope that it's not necessarily a done in one, and we either get more long form stories with it, or maybe even a series. But yeah, I'm all about it. I can't wait.
Let me strap on my producer hat for a second. For me and the people at home who have no idea what that is, give me a quick.
Yes. Well, go ahead.
Section 31 is the Black Ops department within
like
Starfleet.
Star Trek SEAL team.
Yeah, but it's all whispers and rumors. You don't like people don't believe it exists. It's like it's
plausible
it's an urban
deniability.
legend.
It's like a black spot. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. So yeah. So they just so it's not they're they do a lot of things behind the scenes. They don't necessarily manipulate, but it's kind of like Big Brother is watching you, or who watches to watch you. There's just you don't know they're there, but they're involved. They have their fingers in pretty much everything. They know everything that's going on, but you don't know anything. You don't even know who might be in Section 31. So it's completely completely off the grid.
And what era is this?
This is because it's Michelle Yeoh, and she was the Discovery, which takes place 5 years before Kirk became captain of the Enterprise. Even though when she exited Discovery, the series, they were in the future, but she was being sent back to not her original dimension, not her universe, but back in the same time when she was pulled from her universe originally. So it's before the original series. At least that's my assumption, is that because of when we last saw Philippa Georgiou, she was going back in time. So my assumption is this story is going to take place before the original series era.
Love it.
Nice. Okay. A bunch of TV shows were named. We don't have to go deep on really any of these unless you want to, but I'll list them off because they're certainly, like I said, didn't get any of this news last year. In the of course category, you've got a Boys prequel because there's one season left of the Boys, and obviously they're going to milk the hell out of that IP because it's some of the most watched stuff on Amazon, and it's called Vault Rising. It will be out. They're already filming it. It'll be out about this time next year. In the category of most expensive show that no one ever watched, Ring of Power Season 2 is coming out this month, actually, which is the second season of the Tolkien series, for those that don't remember, because it was, early pandemic, pre-pandemic?
All the money they spent on it, though, for the whole thing?
Yeah, over $1 billion they spent.
Yeah, wow.
So that's coming. They seem to be pretty hyped about it. I was actually on their earnings conference call today, and they mentioned it. So they're hyping it up, but we'll see. Probably the one that Dap and I are going to be most excited about, Silo Season 2, comes out in 2 months, so that's great.
Nice.
The Penguin comes out next month, and that is the Max show, the live-action show about the Penguin with this, yet another actor playing superhero double duty, because the same man who played Bullseye is now playing the Penguin. Mr. Collins.
This is the Batman prequel, right?
Yeah.
It takes place before.
Yeah, this is Colin Farrell. In a big nose prosthetic. And then there are 2 cartoons that made the news. Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is a 2D classic animation, but rendered in the same really cool, gritty graffiti style that we got in 3D in the last movie, which I thought was awesome. And then probably the most interesting from the animation side is Creature Commandos, which is the DC, of course, characters, coming out in December of 2024. And at the announcement, they indicated that the cartoon will be in the James Gunn film continuity. So they're kind of pulling a little bit like a Marvel deal, only even going beyond that because it's animation. So these animated episodes will be in the continuity of the films. So that's kind of interesting.
They've been saying that since they launched the James Gunn thing, that everything counts. It's all part of it.
Pretty neat. And then the only thing on the other comics that I thought was worthy, and I think we're all probably be into this, yet another new comic publishing imprint has been announced, and this time it's Amazing Comics, but it seems kind of cool. It is a joint venture between Mad Cave, Dupuis, who's a French publisher, and Joe Quesada. Quesada's basically, they didn't make it clear like if he owns it or he's like part owner, or if but he's the guy in charge, whatever that title is, probably publisher. And the deal is, number one, it's going to be Quesada and his people that he loves making comics. The first title they announced was called Disciple. It's co-written by him and Steve Dorfman, and Quesada draws it, which will mean this is the first time we'll see Quesada interiors in 15 years, probably more than that. But the conceit here though is that Amazing Comics will simultaneously release like archival collected hardcover versions in both the US and Europe, like on same day of release, which is pretty neat. I think that's kind of cool. As someone who loves a lot of import comics, especially French comics, it's pretty neat to think that I just love that conceit. I have no idea if that's a good business model. I don't know if that's necessarily a differentiator, because you're obviously in one place or the other, but that is their conceit. And for me, the big news is that we got Quesada back in comics full time. I think that's pretty cool. Like making comics, he's obviously was. So,
did they say is the format going to be European format?
I think so. Yeah. If they did say it, I don't have a note here, but yeah, I think so. So, and this first series, Disciple, they said is like a modern take on Hamlet. So,
love it.
Yeah, I'm into it. All right, let's before we do another San Diego category, why don't we talk some comics? Because I'm sure people don't want us to spend the entire episode talking about news. So,
I wanted to. 2 reasons why. Well, the 6th issue of this miniseries dropped this week, so I was finally able to finish it so I could talk about it. And I wanted to talk about it tonight, partly because Vince isn't here, and we won't have to hear the sighs or the silence. But this is Masterpiece by Brian Michael Bendis, Alex Maleev, Ian Herring on colors. And what I liked about this series, and why I also wanted Jason to be here when I discussed it, is because it's a heist book, more or less. It's about this young woman as of not quite college age. She goes by Emma, but her name is actually Masterpiece Lawson. And her parents, her mother and father, were burglars. They ran a heist ring, and mom Mom was the brains. Dad was the leader, and you had Gleason, who took care of the gadgets. You had a hacker. You had the muscle, who went by the Paragon. That was his name. You had a honeypot. You had the safecracker. You had the sleight of hand dude. So I mean, they had the entire crew. You had the guy who could also do the pickpockets. But Mom and Dad stole a lot from Zero Preston, and Zero Preston actually was, I don't want to say impressed, but he actually made a movie about them and about them ripping him off. And it hurt him so much that these two took from him that he waited a long time to kind of get his revenge, and he's doing that by basically extorting or blackmailing Masterpiece. And Gleason, who the gadgets guru of the group, Gleason's basically been Masterpiece's guardian, and for almost basically 3, 4, maybe almost 4.5, it's just getting the gang together, and so the it can be a little slow in spots, especially it's Bendis dialogue, but it's clever and witty. I chuckled more reading the conversations here than I did during some of the Avenger stuff. Some of the quips reminded me, like kind of took me back to House of M when a lot of those characters were ribbing each other before it got heavy. But Maleev's art also, it's a little it's a little cleaner, maybe even a little bit more polished than like his Illuminati days and when he was or even his Daredevil days with Bendis. It's just not as photo referencey as some of his older stuff. There is still things there. There's still some characters you might see and in your mind, it's right in the corner of your eye that where you may know where he got the character reference from, but it doesn't stop you cold on the page when you're reading it. But the seeing how Masterpiece reacts to her world being torn apart because she's never met her parents, she doesn't know who her parents are. There's an inkling of hope that they may be alive, but conversations that she has with Preston makes her think that that isn't necessarily the case. Her very loyal friend, possibly boyfriend, Lawrence, he's the sleight of hand guy of the group. Him wanting to kind of be taught by the Paragon, who at this rate, he's definitely older than he was when Mom and Dad were handling things, because apparently like he kind of blew up in popularity during like the grunge era, and here we are like obviously decades later, and he's a little older, but he still really hasn't lost much of a step. He's still putting down guys bigger than he is, and making sure people get away safe when they need to. Scotty is the hacker. She's in juvie when we meet her in the book, and Gleason is basically getting her out of juvie. She's going to be the hacker, and she's going to be the one who basically brings down Preston's whole world, hopefully. But Preston is also doing this not just to get revenge on Masterpiece's parents by having their daughter do something for him. The thing he's doing is he wants to take down Katie Roots, who is one of the richest people, like Zero Preston, on the planet. And basically, nobody on Masterpiece's team cares for Katie because she got rich off of child labor. very, very successful entrepreneur and businesswoman, but there's obviously a cost. So there's a lot of jokes at capitalism's expense. There's a lot of eat the rich type commentary with this series, but the watching things come together, it felt like there was more building up who everybody is than there was as far as there was more time spent on the people who are going to pull off this heist or the mission than actual time spent on the mission in the book. So it that could be a detriment depending on, I mean, if you just want to read about the characters and see how the story goes, it's a fun time. But if you're like, oh, I want to see how this person gets revenge, you might be a bit let down, only because of how quickly kind of things move once everybody gets together and people figure out what role they play in certain things. So it was a lot of fun. It's a Dark Horse series. Like I said, the 6th issue just came out. I believe it was the collection was solicited in the July previews. But it was I wanted to read it because I haven't read anything by Bendis recently, so I figured let me give it a shot, and I am glad I did. I had a lot of fun with it. Really had no idea where it was going or what it was about, because the covers really don't give you too much, and it kind of you get a lot more than just what you might think is on the surface. So it was kind of neat digging into it. I hope we get more. It ends in a way where it would be very easy for Bendis and Maleev to continue this series. It's not necessarily written like they're trying to cash in and turn it into something live action. It feels like a comic, but it's also one of his more kind of in the real world type stories. There are no capes and cowls. The only thing, the closest we get is the Paragon, who basically wears a trench coat, has a fedora, wears kind of like red specs, has a cane, so he can use that to kind of take people out. So I mean, he's a vigilante more than anything else, but it's not Spider-Man noir. So it's all really kind of, as far as the technology and the way the characters feel, it's very it's kind of very it's more of the moment than a lot of Bendis's other work. So I would definitely recommend checking it out if you are into those heist like stories, all about revenge, all about hopefully good prevailing over evil, temporarily or otherwise. But yeah, I'd definitely say check it out.
Nice. I feel like
there was a time when a Bendis Maleev book would have been like absolute must read the second it comes out. It's interesting, and I think the fact that it was Maleev this time made me not even pay attention to it. And I got to say, you make it sound way more interesting than the covers made me think of the book. So
yes, yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah, because I saw the covers, and it wasn't until like the 3rd issue came out, and I was like, let me see what the hell this is about, because the covers never did a damn thing for me.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, it does sound good. I mean, you had me a heist.
I know, and that's why. Yeah, I figured that would, and yeah, but I realized it today after reading the 6th issue. I was like, it really took almost like more than half the series to get everybody together.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Mm-hmm. I'm not mad at that though.
No, if it's done right, it works really well.
That's the part of a heist, is putting that team together.
That's it, man.
Yep. Yep.
Absolutely. That's getting the band together. That's my shit, man. If I ever do make a comic, it's going to be about getting some kind of group together. For sure.
I feel like I read the first 2 of this, and then I was just like, I'll catch this when it's in trade. But it must have taken a while to come out, because
it did, dude. I'm like, I think it was definitely over a month between the 5th and 6th issue. So I was like, is this supposed to be bi-monthly? Or did it really kind of just drag towards the end? But yeah, I've been waiting for the 6th issue for the longest.
Nice. Well,
Nice.
yeah, got that trade.
You had any time to read anything lately, Fleecs?
Today I read a bunch of stuff because I knew I was coming on
Oh,
here.
look at you! There you go.
I read through. Did you guys talk about it when it was digital? Did you talk about the end of Friday?
No, we haven't talked about it. In fact, it's on my list this week that I read the trade of Volume 3.
I also did.
Nice. What'd you think?
Well, I went back because I feel like it came out every winter time, like every Christmas time, and then this one came out did it come out early or did it come out late? Did one not come out this Christmas?
I don't know, man. I honestly, I never know it's coming out until someone on either our, one of our socials pings us and said, "Hey, a new episode, issue of Friday dropped," and then I'm like, "Oh, bet," and then I head over to Panel Syndicate and download it. So
the books, because I feel like the books, the first one came.
The trade just came out. The trade came out 2 weeks ago. So
yeah, but yeah, I always like there would be like a Phillips one in like the summer fall, and then it felt like there was one of these in Christmas time, and then this year either there wasn't one or this third one surprised me and came out early. I feel like it didn't come out at Christmas time.
Agreed.
Anyway, I went back and reread all of the first volume and the second volume just so that I was fully caught up when I was going into it, because it had been about a year or more since I read the last one, and this is one of my favorite. I mean, maybe it's just the like the periodical nature of it, like the same way that I love Reckless. I love sort of coming back to these characters. But this one has just been one story that's been going on for 3 years now.
Yeah.
But man, do I like it! And I realized when I was pitching it to a friend at Comic-Con, I hadn't read the last one yet, but he was like, "What's new that I should check out?" And I said, "Well, at the Image booth they have all 3 Fridays. You should get that. It's sort of like Encyclopedia Brown, but it focuses on his gal best friend." And then I was like, "Oh, they did that with Velvet too, right? Like that's." Like Brubaker sort of plays that trick sometimes, where he's just like, "What's going on with this gal sidekick?"
Yep.
And he did it that one issue of or volume of Reckless. They did it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Just bought a page from that run actually.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
But yeah, this last volume of Friday, at the end of the second volume, or if you're reading digitally, I guess it would have been at the end of chapter 6. It gets a lot more like fantasy and
yeah, it totally takes a turn where you're like, wait, huh?
Yeah, and you realize when it happens that they've been teasing at it the whole time. Like whenever Friday talks to like the police chief or people from town, they sort of hint at like outsiders don't understand. Weird stuff happens here in this town. But boy, all of a sudden at the end of that last volume, it really starts to go weird. And we start volume 3 of Friday is basically all like a time travel story. Like she travels back to the beginning of the story in volume 3, and it's sort of like seeing the whole thing now from a new perspective and seeing all the like filling in all the blanks that we've missed along the way, which is a cool way to do like the end of a mystery, right? Like her whole thing is that she's been like investigating, and what's his name, Lancelot, he's supposed to be this great investigator, so they're like these great detectives, but they weren't able to catch everything, and so now she sort of gets like the greatest wish as a detective that she could just go back and be there when it happened, and it sort of gets to see the whole thing, and the whole thing is fantastical. Like it's like like fantasy creatures and like elder gods and like forest witches and stuff. Really surprising. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you summed it up perfectly. I remember talking about the second volume / issues 4, 5, and 6 when it was wrapped up, and how seemingly out of nowhere, at least at first, it felt like the supernatural elements came, but then it was like, oh, well, why not, right? Like, why are we assuming this is just a like plain Earth just because it's in that it starts off that way? But I think for me, the thing that was more surprising is just that Brubaker, I guess to me, has always seemed as someone who isn't into that kind of thing, right? Like Like he's like anytime I've heard him do an interview, he says he writes crime comics because that's what he wants to write. Like basically doesn't really have much of an interest in even going into other genres, right? Like he did pulp mainly because Phillips wanted to draw a Western, so obviously he created a book that's really not a Western, but it's about an old comic dude telling a story about a Western. And it's like same thing with the last one. It's like he drew it in Europe because Phillips was tired of drawing the same thing, so he made a crime comic in Europe. It's like it just seems like Brubaker's got a thing. So it's kind of nice to see him. Like, yes, this is a crime comic, and so I guess it's on brand there. But I think the fact that he was willing to push himself into a little more of the occult and supernatural it felt fresh because of that. And then I think the other thing is, as much as we heap deserved praise on Brubaker and Phillips, and they are amazing and we love their work, it's nice to see another visual interpretation of Ed's stories every now and then. Because it feels fresh, and I feel like this scratches that itch too. So, yeah, I love this. I love this a lot. I mean, I wasn't a huge kid detective person growing up. Like, I'm sure I read a few of the Hardy Boys or Encyclopedia Brown stories, but I don't feel like that was the thing I was into. So this didn't have like any kind of nostalgic pull, but it felt really well executed to me for sure.
I read Hardy Boys too, and I think maybe that's also why I thought that it was just a regular crime story, because in those stories, like in the first volume of Friday, they show you the White Lady and it's magical and it's crazy, but you just assume because of Hardy Boys or Nancy Drew or like Scooby Doo or anything that like when they get to the end of it, they'll explain everyone was drugged or there was some, like for some reason it looked like this big crazy thing, and I think it's like sort of him playing with our expectations of what he does at the end to just go like, no, it's they're fairies, like it's a fairy witch.
Yeah
I thought that was great, and just the character of Friday, so great that like just the rereading the first two to just like the thing that's driving her is that like her and Lancelot, what's his last name? She just calls him Lance all the time.
Yeah.
It's a cool detective name. Lancelot Lynx or something like that's not right. That's a real person. A real fake person. But they had like an awkward hookup, and then she went away to college and he stayed home, and so like the whole thing that's driving her is like this full awkwardness, her best friend, and now she's sort of lost this thing, and then it sort of mirrors the when we go into the second volume and she loses him for real, it's just a really great story and interesting, like his take on a YA story,
Yeah, and the other thing too, Lancelot Jones, by the way, is his name.
There it is.
The other thing too is, having been such a fan of Marcos Martin at Marvel, probably the standout artist of the Spidey, the long running, Spidey cabal. He was probably at least the breakout artist of that. So clean, like classic superhero, like very detailed line. And then he comes over here, which for those that don't know, he is co-owner of Panel Syndicate, the vehicle that publishes these comics. He it's such a completely different style, and I love it. Like I just love. There was a time in my life where I probably would have not liked it because I'm like, this doesn't look like the comic books, but at this age, I really actually love when I see artists do a different style, particularly in service of, like, this is a webcomic, so he probably doesn't want to put it, so he's doing it a little more sort of naturally and letting the line flow and not worrying about me, and it's because it's his story, and I don't know, it feels neat to see, like, this isn't just a case of his style, but it's a little looser because you're like, oh, he's just being a little looser because no, it's a completely different style. Like you. If I showed someone pages of this and pages of the Spider-Man, you would never guess it's the same artist, and I love that because I think this is beautiful in its own right. And it's funny that he's been drawing Friday for 4 or 5 years now, and I guess maybe it shows you how impactful the James Tynion like Tiny Onion universe has become to the center of comics, because I feel like looking at Martin's work in this now feels very evocative to me of all of the Tynion crew, most notably, Werther Dell'Edera, but like it's this looks like it could be scenes from Something's Killing the Children.
Yeah.
But what's weird is obviously Martin's been doing this even longer than they have. It just feels much more of the moment now than it probably did when it first came out. So it's like visually very exciting to me. I really do love the visuals.
And the colors by Monsta Vicente are really great. It looks like a movie. Like it looks like Suspiria or something. Just like insanely bright colors, full on colors. It's just like magenta and yellow just crashed up into each other.
Yep.
Yeah, really great.
Look at you bringing value to the show beyond your own work.
I'm not here telling you about my stuff.
Right.
I have a pile of stuff that's not mine.
Nice. Dap, do you want to hear about the Eisners or the MCU?
The MCU, because that could segue into our next topic.
Perfect. Okay. Yes, probably Marvel and DC cinematic universe is probably the biggest stories of the. Let me scratch that. DC Comics had the biggest comic news, and Marvel had the big movie news. So a lot of this we kind of knew, at least softly, right? Like they basically reconfirmed the new updated post-strike locked in stone movie release schedule for the next couple years. And now they also said it's not complete, but what we know for sure, and again, some of this people might already know because it's not like they just kind of confirmed already believed dates, but Captain America Brave New World, February 2025. So we're going to have 3 Marvel movies in 2025. Thunderbolts in May of 25, and then Fantastic Four First Steps in July. So they're going hard in the first half of the year. It seems smart. It feels like they're going to be building off of this crazy success that Deadpool Wolverine had. But then the big news, the news that's got everybody talking, some with some absolutely bananas takes out there, which we'll maybe get to, in my opinion. But we got confirmation that we have the next 2 Avengers movies, Avengers Doomsday in May 2026, followed the next year by Avengers Secret Wars, May 2027. And the 2 big pieces of the news are, number 1, the Russo brothers, who did the 2 of the Captain America movies and then the last 2 Avengers movies, including Endgame. They have come back and been signed to direct the next 2 Avengers movies. So I think fair to say most people that are fans of the MCU are very happy to hear that. And then while they were talking about all this, they had up on stage at Hall H, they had a bunch of cloaked Doctor Doom-like figures, and one of them steps out from the middle and unmasks, and it is Robert Downey Jr., who they announced has been signed on to play Doctor Doom and be the main antagonist in these upcoming films. So, big news. What do you think of the Robert Downey Jr. is back idea?
You want to go first, Tony?
I don't have a super hot take here. I've heard a lot of people be very upset about it, and I'm just more. First of all, my expectations have been so lowered over the past 5 years or whatever, and I trust the Russo brothers to a certain extent. So I'm just like, yeah, see what they do. I mean, I feel like that's not the kind of searing commentary you're looking for, but I liked Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer playing a dickbag.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I don't think he's going to be like a jokey, Tony Starky Doctor Doom, if that's what people are worried about. And I'm interested to see like what the take is. I guess the only sort of part of the take that if people that don't like it, I hope it's not like a alternate universe. I hope it's not one of those. But who knows? I mean, maybe they have to figure out a way to make sense of this alternate universe stuff at some point, because I'm sure we'll get to talking about Deadpool, but I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, I have some response to that, but I'll let Dap share his views first.
I'm not mad at it. As far as being a comic book reader, comic book fan goes, we know my feelings on multiverses and alternate universes and dimensions, and so however I immediately, and when we went to the movie Sunday and we were discussing things after the reveal. It's one of those things. Everybody around me was trying to figure out what's going to happen when Peter lays eyes on this person for the first time, and I mean, providing obviously you don't get Robert Downey Jr. and scar him all up, just put him behind a mask. So I'm sure we're going to see Victor Von Doom's face. It's going to look just like the Tony Stark everybody knew, and so we're already like kind of just spiraling out with plot lines or stories or how things will be affected. My initial reaction when I saw it, and the first thing I thought was, well, this is the guy who kicked off the Marvel Cinematic Universe in 2008. For me, I'm okay. It kind of, I don't have a problem if they want to take if they want to go in the sense that we're kicking off possibly the next phase with that same guy. At least physically looks like the same guy. Obviously, it's a different character. I don't know if it's. I mean, I'm sure it is, because why else would you get Robert Downey Jr. again? But for all I know, until we see it, I don't know if this is the main Victor Von Doom, or if it's just like they were doing with all the different Kangs. If this is just an iteration of a Victor Von Doom from an alternate universe. We'll see. I don't know how we're gonna do the because obviously if he's supposed to be the Victor Von Doom that is the nemesis of Reed Richards and of course Doctor Strange, then he's already way older than he is when he was introduced in the comics. So I don't think we're gonna get an origin, at least with RDJ, younger version perhaps. But yeah, right now, my attitude, as it's been for the majority of the rollout of these movies or these announcements, is it's wait and see. I was excited, and I remember when we were on the forums and they announced Guardians of the Galaxy the first time, and how it was and how it's by James Gunn, or even when they brought in Paul Rudd to do Ant-Man, and there were some groans, and rightfully so, we're not sight unseen, because of it's like Michael Keaton when casted as Batman in 1989. It's like you're going to just get people who are a little put out or upset, or their first reaction is just going to be something different than others. But I'm optimistic. I'm not. I didn't look at it and go, they're out of ideas and this is bullshit and why they do. We don't know anything yet. So I'm of the mind where I've seen all the movies, good or bad, but I still, whatever story they want to tell, I'll be there to see it, and then we'll see where things go from there. But yeah, I was smiling, but it's not like I was completely blown away by the news, because whether they were going to introduce somebody new or somebody who's never done a Marvel movie that's still a big name, or they were going to try to bring somebody back, I didn't know where they were going with it. So it was neat to see. I was caught up in the moment, but yeah, I'm not dejecting it or complaining in any way, at least not yet. But yeah, no, I'm saying right now, I trust them. So I'm okay with the news. I am intrigued. I want to see where they're going with it.
Yeah, I listen. I think that from a business standpoint, obviously it was smart, right? Because it seems like the public buzz, the normies, seem pretty excited about all this. Like the comic nerd in me kind of hates the fact that like one single actor would really make a difference to the success of these movies. Like right, to me, it's like, well, just cast actors who can make the characters come to life. It's the characters, it's not the actors, and this is kind of like pretty strong evidence that against that. So, but that's like a minor nit. I don't personally, like, again, if just we're being at the nerd level, like I'm in for it no matter what. Obviously, I've seen all the movies. I'll see all the ones they continue to put out until I can't see anymore. Some I've loved, some I've liked. You know, a few I haven't. But for the most part, I've loved them. And like you said, I think the Russo brothers are great. They've made my favorite MCU movies pretty much across the board. So I'm into that. I mean, personally though, like Marvel zombie nerd in me, like I don't want him to be Victor Von Doom, like as if like he's just like playing an entirely different character. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like we're supposed to just not remember that the same actor played Tony Stark. That I think is corny to me. Like, I would really not like that, honestly.
That's interesting though. What if they do like a Colin Farrell penguin on him, and they just have him in heavy makeup, and he's just literally is just playing a completely different?
Yeah, but then I would ask him, why do we need to pay this dude $40 million to play? Right? Like that doesn't. Anyway, I mean, it's not like it's my money, but yeah. So I do think, and I think that also if you're piecing things together, probably the most hilarious headline about all this is that Jonathan Majors was on the cover of Hollywood Reporter today. The headline said, Jonathan Majors heartbroken over Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom casting. For those that don't know, Jonathan Majors is the very canceled up-and-coming actor. He pretty much was like the hottest actor in Hollywood, year and a half, 2 years ago, and was coming off the latest Rocky movie and a couple of other big movies, and then was cast as Kang in the Loki series, and which was part of a decade-long plan to make him the new big bad, like the new Thanos. It was going to be Kang, not Doom. Unfortunately, Majors was accused of multiple counts of domestic abuse against different women, and is pretty much canceled now. Again, we don't have to get into what we think of all that and whether he's, the semantics of whether he's quote unquote guilty or not. But the point is that he's certainly canceled. Marvel walked away from him. But they had spent a tremendous amount of money setting up this Kang universe, and Secret Wars was very much supposed to be Kang as the villain. So, like, on one hand, you have to say, well, okay, they had to pivot. Clearly, the multiverse is a big part of what's to come, because they weren't just going to tear everything that they had done apart to rewrite a bunch of new scripts. So in essence, they're going to make Doom a multiversal villain, which could work just fine. And in that case, that tells me, like, okay, Robert Downey Jr. is going to be one of the Dooms. Like, he's going to be a Doom. And in that world, it was probably that Tony Stark ends up as Doctor Doom, right? Just and if that's fine to me, because I suspect we'll have a council of Dooms. Like, it will be a council of Dooms, and maybe they make Robert Downey the prime Doom because he's Robert Downey Jr. Maybe, but point is I think in the context of him being an alt universe Tony Stark, who is one of the Dooms, like that makes the most sense to me. Not that they care what I think, but either way, I'm really excited about the Russos. I do think genuinely that certainly from a business standpoint, the MCU has not been what it was post the end of Endgame. And it makes all the sense in the world because there wasn't that sort of tether point to get people excited. But I really do believe that they are back on track with this. And I wouldn't have thought of Deadpool and Wolverine as being like the important baton to get the MCU fight going again, but it kind of felt like watching the movie. It kind of felt like, oh, okay, yeah, like we're back, like and this is the connection. Like this, they're connecting us to the next phase of the MCU here. Like, oh, I didn't expect that of the movie. Like, I expected to really like the movie because I love the characters and I've liked the first two films, but I didn't expect the movie to feel as epic relative to the interconnectivity of the MCU as it did. That was a real surprise to me, and a joyous one. So we've all seen it. Tell me you loved it as much as I did, because I absolutely, at the night of, I said on the socials that recognizing it may be recency bias, but I honestly felt coming out of that movie like it was my favorite superhero movie of all time.
Wow.
It is. I walked out of the theater. It is. I haven't done any rankings, but walking out, it was a top 5 superhero movie for me.
Nice.
And that opening credit scene, there hasn't been one as great as that since the second Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Respect.
And I think in some respects, this I would probably prefer Deadpool and Wolverine's opening, but there's no GOTGV2 is still great, but yeah, I think you can, start to finish. I may have annoyed the 5 people I was with because whether whether it's spoilers, whether it's Little Logan or and this was a photo that they had posted online anyway, but Liefeld's Just Feet shoe store, or ridiculous. Or even him mentioning, "Oh, you're in the John Byrne Brown and Tan outfit." I was just like, "Holy shit!" You fucking mentioned John. Like they're just, dude. I mean, and the different iterations of Wolverine that we got to see, but the jokes and obviously we have fourth wall breaking because it's Deadpool, but I mean, the fact that he was able to go so deep into actual MCU stuff and not just whatever he could get away with from Fox. It just, I mean, this was, while it was an enjoyable visual fest, the fact that it built on over almost 25 years of X-Men movies, but also other things that Marvel brought to cinema since then, like the TVA, and I just it's just been it was the movie we needed. I cannot wait to see it again, but it is I still think of things days later and still smile about it, and I will be able to my wife and I, my neighbors, will be able to quote this for a long fucking time. There was just, I can't. I was trying to, and I'm sure they are there, and I'm sure other people can point them out. But I'm like, as we were coming home, I'm like, what kind of plot holes were there? What can we? And I'm just, I right now I don't care. I had so much fun from start to finish, and then of course, you know, they had to fucking go and play Green Day at the end. But there were just so many things. And even that last stinger at the end, and oh my god, no, I absolutely loved it. It was, I've enjoyed every Deadpool movie, but this was just,
this is 20 times better than Deadpool 2. And yes, I realize that is the film that has my girl Domino in it, but it's not a great movie. It, like, we just obviously rewatched it before this, and Deadpool 2 is a very flawed movie. Like, there's not much that happens in it. It feels low budget because they only have 2 X-Men, and the whole thing. To me, it definitely is not like a strong superhero movie, but it's Ryan Reynolds being Deadpool, which is charming. But this is to me 20 times better. Like, the whole thing was just a big adventure, and it felt epic. But
yep.
Fleece, tell us why you agree with us. or hang up, and it's been good talking to you, buddy.
Yeah,
I've
see you
seen
next
it
time.
Twice.
Oh shit! Okay.
God damn! All right, brother.
And I had to go see it immediately when I got home from Comic-Con on Monday, because I was just positive it would be spoiled for me if like Comic-Con. I'm around nerds, but a lot of them haven't seen it yet, and nobody's on the internet most of the time. You know, like, you're just being present. And like I told you before we started recording, I got one of, like, in the 5 minutes before I left to go to the theater, I got one of the big cameos spoiled for me, and so I knew, like, if I waited, it would all be spoiled for me. So I saw it on Monday, and then I have a normal movie group that I go see movies with. Sometimes when I can't be on here recording with you guys, I'm off seeing some movie. But yeah, all the stuff that you guys like, I like the connectivity stuff. I thought was fun. The references stuff I thought was fun. I feel like, as far as the heart that they tried to have in it with the Wolverine story and like the Deadpool story, I feel like both of those were sort of like half-baked. Mm-hmm. The last time we saw Wolverine was in Logan, and like that was perfect. You know, like, that's how you do the Wolverine with a heart story, right?
Sure.
And then I feel like the first 2 Deadpools had sort of like stronger emotional stories for Deadpool. You know, like, this one basically just like, he wants to matter. And it's sort of like this meta thing where it's like, does he get to keep mattering and existing in the, you know, in the movies that keep coming out? But like, even, you know, they showed sort of his breakup with Marina Baccarin.
Vanessa?
Yeah, Vanessa in that flashback when Cassandra Nova's like fingering him in the head. But even that just seemed like it wasn't, like, it just hadn't, they didn't have it all there, I think. And so like that part of it sort of bummed me out, because I wanted to to be like the first two Deadpool movies. I feel like do have a ton of heart. You know, like whether it's the kid in the second one or it's the romance in the first one, and even in the second one, like he's the whole time he's just fighting because he needs this. You know, if there's a chance to get his wife back, you know, and Cable's fighting for his family. So I just felt like that was missing. But all the fun stuff was fun. Like all the fights were great. And the side-scrolling, you know, old boy fight with the Deadpool core.
Oh my god, so good, dude, so good,
super fun. And the fight inside the car, I thought was great.
Which Renee wants to just see that on loop. She can't stop talking about that fight.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like to me, like I mean, I love well choreographed, you know, battle movies. You know, I mean, we've talked about them over the years, but like. You know, like you give me the Raid, you know, any version of the Raid, and I'm there for it. And like that, like close up, like different angle, in close fighting is just so. I love it when it's well done. And yeah, this to me felt like just a giant series of awesome fight scenes and then laughs. You know,
yeah.
I know what you're saying about the plot, but like you know, for me, I think that actually was another reason why I love it so much because I think this film gave me the versions of Wolverine and Deadpool that I like the most.
Right.
Like in the comics. Like I'm like, oh, that's Joe Kelly Deadpool. He's silly, but he's deadly. Like because like he's not just cutting jokes, he's actually able to kill like almost anybody. And then, you know, I mean I love Wolverine generally, but like that version of him where he's a absolute badass, but he's still a little bit funny, like that. Like I came away thinking like, no, like I would say that Wolverine's been, to me, like, he's been in a lot more movies. I think Hugh Jackman has portrayed him pretty well, like, in a lot of films. So, like, it's less of a thing for me about him in the movie, although I think it was another really good portrayal. But like I said, to me, Deadpool being more the comic relief felt, like, right to me. Like, I think that's, to me, that... Because there's so many different versions of Deadpool in the comics, and I dislike more of them than I like. Yeah. And this is the one that I like the most. So that I think that went a long way for me this time.
I really liked. I mean, we are spoiling. I liked the like all the Fox heroes showing up, Elektra and Blade, yeah. X-23, and then fucking Gambit was so great,
dude.
And that's the thing. Like, there was so much self-deprecation in this. Like. That they were like Disney allowed them to make fun of Disney, to make fun of the MCU being out of favor, like you know, make fun of the Fox stuff. Like it's there was so much like looking at yourself in the mirror and laughing about it that I never would have expected. Like it's one thing for Disney to acquiesce to releasing an R-rated movie, something they very rarely do and never do under the Disney banner. Like I gave them huge credit for that because it would have been the dumbest thing in the world for them to, you know, buy these Fox assets and then turn Deadpool into a PG-13 movie. Like that would have been just so ridiculous, and it would have felt horrible, and everybody would have hated it. So I love that this is a genuine hard R film. This isn't there's a few F words. This is a hard R, like massive bloodshed, massive adult humor, massive sexual innuendo. Like, you know, this is definitely like more like Porky's when we were kids trying to sneak into than, you know, like Beverly Hills Cop. It's so, which I love that. Like that felt great that Disney let them do that. And like I said, but I never would have imagined that they would have let everybody be so self-deprecating and it feels so right to do that when you have a fourth wall breaker. But like, I still can't believe they let. I mean, they straight out making jokes about Feige and you know, it's just like calling people out by name. I mean, I think that's. And again, that's inside baseball stuff. Probably a lot of people watching these films don't even know who those people are. Like, or like, so they may not even get the joke. But if you do get the joke, it's like, man, I just think it floored me with just how unbridled they were willing to be as a satire of themselves or parody of themselves.
I mean, even pointing out the real life tension from the Blade Trinity set between Ryan and Wesley.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was I mean. Christ,
or even when Elektra and they talk about
Daredevil's dead, no big deal. It's fine.
So she's in the middle for a second, you know, of a huge divorce with this guy, and it's like, you know, and it's like, I just love it. Like it's again, no one took themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, the two crazy ones I thought were when Deadpool was like, "Look, the multiverse thing isn't working. All right, like, he's got to knock this off." And then when Blade said that he was the only Blade there was,
He was the only. Yeah, there's only one Blade. And then Deadpool's looking right at the camera.
Be one Blade.
So yeah, huge thumbs up for it. I can't. I'm gonna hopefully try and see it again this weekend if I can coax my youngster into wanting to go again. So
here's a question I have: how does he go interview with the Avengers? I don't get it. It makes me crazy. Both times I've seen him, just like, what the fuck is going on here? Like he doesn't have a. Like, if he's using Cable's thing, that's time travel, right? Does that move?
that is what he's doing. Yeah, he's got the thing on his wrist when he goes into interview him.
But that's not time travel. That's a different universe. I guess it just does that too. Fair enough.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's so, because it happened so early in the movie that I'm just like, what?
This is the problem. You are. This is why you. This is because you have to write these stories, and you're like, I don't know how to write this. It doesn't make sense. I'm just like,
This isn't what Time Shopper would do.
Between universes. Okay, I'm with it.
Yeah, well, I'm usually fine with, like, you can throw this stuff away just so long as you give, like, a wink to it or so,
Right.
Like when Celie and I write stuff together, he's always the one that wants to make sure that it's all buttoned down, and I'm explaining. I'm just like, well, because they have magic, But for whatever reason, I got hung up on this one.
Yeah. I don't know, brother. I didn't give it much thought.
All right.
What are we going to do on that, man?
I don't know. Like, I feel like the TVA is the MacGuffin, right? It's like you could, like, right? Isn't that the MacGuffin? I mean,
he has that thing later for sure, and that one I think you can move universes with, maybe.
Yeah. Now, what is interesting to me, and I haven't heard this feedback from. I mean, it seems like everyone we know that has seen it has liked it or loved it. No one's really said, it wasn't for me. But if one of the CEO Bob Iger brought this up on their last earnings call, to his credit, they screwed up with the weaving the TV show's continuity into the films in as much as they did, because a lot of people don't watch the TV shows, far fewer, and it really did make a lot of the movies feel completely disconnected and in a way that the first iteration didn't. And Iger said, we got to do better with that. And then I thought, well, interesting, because with Deadpool Wolverine, like the TVA is a massive part of the story.
Yeah,
but if you didn't watch Loki, like you have no fucking idea what the TVA is.
What's that, the wastelands that they go to?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge too. Like, you definitely had to see Loki.
You're right. That's what I'm saying. So, like, I feel like if you didn't see Loki, I could imagine you being like, I have no idea what this was going on in this movie.
Yeah, well, I think they're kind of.
But the only
if they're doing Thunderbolts, early next year too, like, that's almost all TV stuff, right? Like.
Yeah, I assume. Right. I mean, right. Yeah, exactly. I mean.
But at least, if you're already watching. You probably already saw Captain America and the Winter Soldier, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus. So that leads into Brave New World. But I feel Deadpool, the Fox stuff might be a little different than actual MCU movies. I feel like anybody who's going to see the MCU movies, I would think maybe most people are watching the Disney Plus shows. I have no data to back that up, so I can't say for certain. But so I think going to see Captain America, they probably have the backstory with that. And I know that because really there was only one character from the Loki series that was in Deadpool and Wolverine. Paradox was new; he wasn't from the show. So except from the one executive at the end, because she was a commando in the field during the first season of Loki, you wouldn't have, there wasn't much Loki attached to it. You didn't see Obi. Obviously Mobius is, in air quotes, retired. So yes.
Yeah, but there was Eliath too.
Right. Yeah. No. So yeah, if you still, but you didn't. There was that, but for the most part, aside from them just being out in this great big void of a wasteland, it probably, and I'd be curious to hear anybody who didn't watch Loki if they missed anything from it. But hey, you're also watching a Deadpool movie, and some people are probably like, well, this doesn't make any sense, but I'm watching a Deadpool movie, so I'm just going to roll with it.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. I was just wondering, again, it was more of a question. Like, I was thinking, like, well, I could see if you don't watch the TV shows, particularly Loki, you might be like, I have no idea who all these people are. What's this TVA? It would have felt a little more like MacGuffin, like, okay, well, they need a story with Deadpool. He needs to be able to go from the Fox universe to the current Disney Marvel universe, so, like, let's come up with this thing called the time value, variant story. Like, I'm just saying, like, you could have maybe just been watching, like, oh, okay, this is the thing they're creating to make as a mechanic to make all this happen. Well, that's fine. But, like, I was just wondering that. But anyway, yeah, there you go. We're all big advocates of getting off your ass and seeing this film if you haven't already.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Nice. I'm, as you guys know, I'm a fan of comics anthologies. Mm-hmm. So say we all, right? And I try and read a lot of them. We're in a pretty halcyon time for them, I think. I think because of, like, crowdfunding in particular, we do get quite a lot of anthologies. If you're looking for them, you can find them. And I read definitely one that will be in the hunt for the 11 o'clock Oscars, if not the favorite, and that is Braba, Braba. I believe the official title of the book actually is Braba, a Brazilian Comics Anthology. It is the version I read was just printed, published by Fantagraphics, but it is it's a wonderfully done comics anthology, which is curated by Rafael Grampá, which maybe explains why he can draw like one book every 3 years. He's busy curating this. Who knew? But no, in all seriousness, he curated the book and did a great job. And the whole point is to bring attention to Brazilian comic creators. So there are 16 creators in this book: Amanda Miranda, Bruno Selig, Diego Sanchez, Gabriel Goes, Jefferson Costa, Jessica Groke, Serlene Barbosa, Yao Pinheiro, Chris Elko, Paulo Crumbin, Pedro Cobiaco, Pedro Franz, Rafael Gudinho, Chico, and Wagner Villain. That's a great name, right? That's like, wow, that sounds like a... But it's just a super well executed anthology. There's thematically there is no theme other than just Brazilian creators telling their stories. So it's first of all, the quality of the creators, and it's a Fantagraphics book, so everything about it is top notch. Like, sometimes when you try out an anthology, inevitably it can range in terms of like the I don't want to say quality, but like the style, the visual styles can and do range, and sometimes these books are for more up and comers, like they get a chance to participate, and maybe they're not like fully formed yet, and there can be charm to it. But sometimes the visuals in these things aren't always like fully what you would consider top notch, right? But in this case, they are all super top notch, but very, very different. There's painted stuff, there's gouache, there's traditional, there's very chibi-esque anime style. There's just every story looks and feels different, and then tonally, everyone is different as well. So it's definitely not like a lot of anthologies have some kind of undercurrent theme behind them, the kind of like the spinal cord that keeps them all connected. There isn't that in this, other than that they're all Brazilian creators. But I don't think it in any way does it a disservice. I think it's like I said, it's not like it makes no sense for me to go through the plots with you, but like each story was very distinctive on its own, and I feel like it could have been serialized, and you just would have really appreciated it. Each one as a standalone. I don't think there were any stinkers, which is always nice, because I think there's always like one or two cast-offs in any anthology. I don't think this has any like that, and so huge recommendation. You should be able to get it easily enough. It just came out maybe like a month ago, so you can find it at your retailers of choice. And for those wondering, Braba is a Brazilian term for angry. So so check it out. It's really quite good, and defies like better to show you than to tell you, honestly, on this one.
Met Rafael Grampá twice at Comic-Con last week.
Wait, really?
And both times somebody introduced me to him as Rafael Albuquerque. And so both times it just didn't happen. It was just so shitty that it was just like, fuck it, we'll let this go.
Wait, what?
Like they would be like, this is Rafael. I'd be like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. And I was like, which Rafael? And they would be like, oh, it's Rafael. They literally were like, this is Rafael Albuquerque. And then he was like, Grandpa, and I was like, oh Jesus Christ, that's uncomfortable.
So, and this happened twice where they thought it was Rafael Albuquerque?
2 different people, yeah.
Wait, what?
It's got to happen to the
Wow.
guy every 4 people at Comic-Con.
Meanwhile, okay, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, they don't look alike. They don't look alike. Second of all, they're not from the same country. Third of all, they don't speak the same language. The only things they have in common is their first names are Raphael, and that they draw comics.
Yeah.
That is baffling.
Yeah, and it wasn't just like Goobs that did it. It was like other pros.
Did he seem upset by it?
Yeah, that's why I didn't
shit.
him, because I was just like, well, this dude's pissed.
Jeez, I mean, seriously, like
how we make friends.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. See, that's now I want to go to San Diego. I want to be in those uncomfortable moments.
Stick with me, pal.
Right.
I see all of them. A buddy of mine at the at a party where they announced that Joe Q published, or not announced, they're just sellers, the Mad Cape party. He asked Joe Quesada, he said to him, I've never been more comfortable in my whole life. He was like, now you had a writer that used to work for you in the Marvel days, and I loved him, and all of a sudden he just disappeared, and I never saw anything from him anymore. You see where this is going? Akira Yoshida. What happened to that guy?
Oh my God.
Literally,
No way, dude.
I almost turned inside out. I was so embarrassed. Luckily, I wasn't standing right next to him, but I was like, my buddy, right before it happened, came over and was like, he's about to do something fucking insane. And so I looked up from my conversation, and then it happened, and I was like, it was like where you're outside your body seeing something happen.
Oh, dude. Wait.
Oh my God.
Wait a minute, like what? So what's the epilogue?
I mean, luckily, I just went back into the conversation I was having. I was so uncomfortable that I was like, I can't even be for this. But to hear tell, he was, uncomfortable with the discussion, obviously, but wasn't like, I'll kill you. He was just, he was like, I literally didn't even know what was happening at first. Whatever.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
That's hysterical.
That's crazy.
Oh, see, this is what I see. Now you're selling me on San Diego. Now I don't even
Yes, yeah.
pulling at my collar, like, oh my God, this is
enthusiasm style awkward situations. I got you, buddy.
no doubt. You could be in Curb Your Enthusiasm like without hesitation. Like, that same energy to you. Well, so listen, you kind of casually mentioned that you were up for an Eisner and didn't win. Our boy's always a bridesmaid. One day he'll get one.
Yeah.
But what's interesting to me is it does seem like a good chunk of those nominated do attend, right? So being nominated is enough that, and I know a bunch of people, as I'm sure you do, that actually do make a point of traveling there, even if they're not local to it, if they're nominated. Like I know David Harper.
Yeah.
Had never gone to San Diego, much like us. He lives in Alaska. He's probably got a better excuse, but he was I think very fair, justifiably nominated for Sketched this year. For journalism in it, and so he went, and I'm like, oh, that was a big expense and a big schlep for him, but he was that honored to be nominated. So what's the vibe at these shows? Does it feel like a real award show? Is there a buzz, and are people getting turned? Are people hella stoked when they win? I mean, because I always thought it was more subdued than that, but I'm wondering if it's become that.
It is sort of more subdued than that. People are hella turned. I was not this time because Image forgot to bring us our drink tickets.
Oh, damn.
And drinks inside the Eisners were more expensive than even outside, because it's in the Hilton, which is where I'm staying. So I was familiar with the drinks at the bar, but inside the Eisner's beers were, I think, $18 for a can of beer. And so that was fucked. So I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to win this. And I also don't want to spend $100 to get, fucking Bud Light drunk. But yeah, the mood is pretty subdued, and eventually it gets to the point where everybody just wants them to hurry up and finish it up,
right?
Because Comic-Con sort of brings in famous people, or Comic-Con famous people, to do the presentation, but I don't think at the Oscars or whatever, even at the Oscars, the patter that they write for presenters isn't always the best. But in this one, I think they're always just like, go ahead and wing it, you know. And so you get some that are good, you know, like Patton Oswalt presented, and he was one of the few that was like genuinely like, oh, this is funny, this is engaging, I like watching this. He announced when Daniel won for one of his many wins. And it took Daniel a while to get up to the stage, so Patton did like a scat while he was going up there. He sang a little song about Daniel Warren Johnson. It was fun, you know. He's like pointed out that he had, you know, nice sneakers on, or, you know, that's fun. But then like they had like Ming Chen came out with some lady, and his like their patter was just that like they were trying to make it sound like they had a, you know, this gag they do at award shows where two unlikely presenters make you think that they used to fuck each other, you know?
Yeah.
And so like they did that thing, and they were also announcing like the children's categories, so it was just like, what is happening? Why are we doing this? And then for me and Tim, and obviously ultimately Becky Cloonan's category, they had these kids from Stranger Things who, now listen, we don't have particularly easy to pronounce names, so of course they were going to do Fleecs, but they also said Tom Seeley.
Oh,
and that's his only nomination ever. and then but they also said for Christopher Priest they said Christopher, which I never even heard before. So I feel like they just sort of got, you know, tongue-tied, jumbled a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They said they didn't say Somna, they said some other thing for the winner. We all understood that that's what had won. And they said like Sora or I don't know, something.
This would have you on full tilt. You would hate this.
Uncomfortable. But I was sat at a table with Tim and with his wife, and they brought their kid with them, and that was fun because when we lost, she cried, which was cathartic. You know, to have somebody weeping at the table. It's how I wish all my disappointments would go, as somebody would be there crying.
It's crying for you by proxy.
Yeah, I
cry
can't.
by proxy.
I'm too pent up. But then also we were there with Bob Q and the boys from Kill Your Darlings, and they lost too. And Bob Q's wife, a delight, Melanie. And then Dave Johnson was there, but I did not make friends with him. He was too far away from me. But I feel like I might have been able to crack that nut if, you know.
Oh, he's a nice dude. I've talked to him many times.
We have friends in common, and they're always like, I can't believe you don't know Dave Johnson. I was like, how would I, you know? But yeah, we had a fun time. Bob Q and the Kill Your Darlings guys lost to Pee Pee Poo Poo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which you guys love. I did not read it yet, but
Vince hated it.
Well, I mean,
really
then and shout out to Silver Sprocket for now being an Eisner
really cool.
award-winning publisher.
Yeah, and they were super charged up. I like those guys. I've now been at Comics Pro with them and at the Eisners with them, and I went to the Lunar presentation thing at C2E2, and then again here at this thing, and those guys they're a whole scene.
Nice. You gonna does that mean, are you breaking news here? Your next book's gonna be a Silver Sprocket book?
the fucking cis het white guy and all the Silver Sprocket.
I'm sure, like you said, you're pent up. You have some demons. I'm sure there's something you could like do, just like graphite pencil, just like free form drawing. Like,
I mean, sure, I could do some angst on paper.
Yes.
But no, we're not that type. I do like those guys though. They're super fun, and they always, whatever, you know, all those lunar presentations are sort of not stuffy, but it's just like, you know, people telling you what they're.
Is it Christina talking mostly, or is it like her people that work under her?
No, Christina will go up a little bit, but then it's like the publishers will go up and give a quick speech.
Oh, I see. It's just weird for me, dude. Like it's so weird. Like, I guess, you know, when you meet someone, you kind of think of them as that even when they change. You know what I mean? So like when I think of Christina, like I still think of her and Cam running like a really cool online store that let me buy books even though I didn't have an LCS. Like, I still don't think of her as like a super powerful comics person, you know, like that, like literally everybody, like all the publishers are dying to like get her ear. Like it's like, I know that is the reality of it, but it's weird thinking of her that way as like, you know, like boss woman instead of like nice friend that we, grab a drink with when we're in town. You know what I mean? Like it is weird to me.
Yeah, I got to experience sort of like both sides of it, because I only know her since C2E2. Like you guys knew her all those years, but I never knew her. But we met at the thing at C2E2, and then this time I went to the Lunar thing just to shake hands, schmooze it up, retailers like I do. But then in between that, and then there's always a C2E or not C2E2, a CBLDF party that is on Friday nights, I think, or Thursday night. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But she sponsored that as well. So like she threw the Lunar mixer, and then she also sponsored the the CBLDF party, along with like Oni and some other people. And so we hopped in a Uber in between those two, and so we had like her and like the Lunar, like a couple Lunar folks and a couple retailers and me, and I think Trish went over there, and we had like normal people talk, and then she was right back out into being, everybody wanting her ear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I like that juxtaposition.
Yeah,
I missed that part of we just never see her enough. We don't see her at the right moments now. We when we run into her, it's like she's got 20 handlers and she's being shuffled off to some other important meeting,
Yeah, she's like Stan Lee.
For reals, dude. For reals.
Yeah.
So I assume for you, like, this is one of those things, like, you kind of casually said you didn't think you were going to win, so I assume it's like any award ceremony, like, it probably just feels good to be there if you just go in and think I'm not going to win, but, like, I'm sure there are always some people that think they're going to win and then they don't, and then they're super bummed. Like, I assume that's the vibe, right? Like, it just depends on whether you think you have a real shot at winning, right?
Worst of both worlds for me, because as soon as I saw the nominations, I was like, well, we're not going to win. But then I get the slightest glimmer of hope. And so the whole time I'm just sitting there going like, I wonder if we'll win. And then Becky Cloonan won earlier in the night, and I go, all right, well, I wonder if they gave her that one. But even though every fucking year you see somebody with like an armful, my dog's going apeshit over here. You see somebody with an armful of Eisner Awards, like they like to give them a bunch at one time. They don't ever just go like,
yeah, that's true.
They only gave Kelly Thompson one, and she got nominated for 5.
Yeah, so, and it was for Jeff. She won for Jeff. It's kind of baffling, honestly. It's actually kind of it's weird. Well, listen, your category was crazy hard. For those that don't know this, Tony and Tim, Local Man, was nominated for Best New Series, and Somna, I guess like Insomnia, so Somna probably, by Becky Cloonan Tulalote won. So big news for Distillery, fresh out the gates, that was their first book. So it's nice when your first book wins Best New Series, right? But I will be honest though, and again, I'm not throwing shade. Like I enjoyed Somna for what it was, and I like both of those creators very much. I thought Local Man, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, and Black Cloak, which were all also nominated, were all better series. Like I would have, if I were a voter, and I aspire very much to one year to get to be an Eisner voter, I would have voted for any of those 3 books over. So it shows you what I know. But
I thought the competition was Somna or Beneath the Trees. I was not like Beneath the Trees and Black Cloak were my 2 favorite books last year.
Yeah.
And so like if it wasn't for me, I would have voted for one of those. But I think just not enough people read Black Cloak for it to be the one.
Right.
Which probably was our issue as well. I'm sure we have similarly middling numbers.
Well, so that's interesting, and again, you don't I know it's not your business to share, but so would you say confidently that the Distillery books in Somna sell that much more than Local Man?
No, I don't think so. Well, I mean, $8.99 versus $3.99.
No, I mean in terms of readers, like you're saying, because you were saying well, not enough people read our stuff, but I would imagine more people read Local Man than read Somna, right?
That's possible. I also think that Chip was a much better promoter than we were as far as that sort of type of thing as well. I don't know. I mean, people love Becky Cloonan, and she's a real talent. And she's one of those that when you see her name on a ballot, you're just if you don't know, if you haven't read any of those, you just go I'll vote for the Becky Cloonan one too.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I mean, I will say it does seem like I know everyone's got different views on and I really do love that we're getting to talk about this in the one time that Vince isn't on the air show with us, because he groans because he hates that I like the Eisners. But the thing is, and I say this every year when we get in this debate, I always look at the Eisners and who's nominated, and there's never been a year where I haven't sought out stuff in the main categories that I was unfamiliar with, read it, and didn't feel like I was better for it as a comics fan. Like that's not to say I always think that who they nominate would be who I would nominate, or who wins would be who I would vote for. But I think there is a consistent, undeniable level of quality such that I don't think anything that gets nominated, if you're unfamiliar with it and you try it, you're going to feel like you don't have any idea why they nominated it. So, like, that's to me why I always find it really fascinating. I don't really care, like, as a fan who wins or doesn't, like, in terms of whether I'll read it. But if you're nominated and I don't know what you are, I'm going to check you out and strongly consider buying it and reading it. You know what I mean? So, like, and that's to me, like, I can't say that of any other award show, right? Like, I don't care who wins the Oscars. I don't care who wins the Emmys. I don't care who wins the Grammys. Like, that has no impact on my fandom. But the Eisners do affect my fandom for sure.
That's like the only reason you really want, when you're not in the moment. Like, in the moment, when I get to that table and I get my chicken dinner, I'm just like, I want that. You know? I want that globe. But, you know, otherwise you're just sort of like, this is neat, it's cool, and to be recognized with these other people. When I get in the room, I'm just like, I hate them all. I want them all to win. But then the real reason you want it is because sales will tick up. Like, libraries will buy. There's this ALA thing, where they buy every one of the winners for libraries, and so that's, you know, hundreds, if not thousands, of units sold of your trade paperback, and that makes an immediate difference in your life. You know, so yeah, it's exciting. Definitely cool to be nominated. 2 of those nominations in my life is way more than I expected. You know,
I think you got at least one win in you. I'm going to call it now. Now we won't go through all the categories, certainly, but I a couple of things that did sort of strike me. You know, probably the biggest news again in its EOC family. DWJ won multiple Eisners. He won, you know, 2 of the bigger ones this year. He won Best Continuing Series, which is basically like, you know, best comic effectively. Yeah. He won that for Transformers, and then he also won Best Writer Artist, like overall creator, who does both, and he won that for Transformers, which, you know, it really is stunning to me, because love or hate the Eisners, the perception is it's a more holistic view of the industry, right? Like, you don't, like, they definitely nominate superhero stuff, but it's certainly far more, the percentage of stuff that's superhero is far lower than, like, than the percentage of superhero comics that are, you know, as market share. So the fact that a licensed comic, you know, from an 80s toy won, you know, 2 of the handful of, like, quote unquote biggest awards is incredible to me. And I, you know, we're all fans of the book, so I think it's well deserved. But I really never would have thought that they would have gone there, you know, because, and I think it's awesome. And, you know, obviously, Tony, your first big break in comics was doing a licensed comic, right? Like, so you obviously got love for that too. But, like, I still am sort of in shock that Transformers was as much a critical darling as it was, you know, the obvious commercial success that it was.
I mean, the thing you got to think about too, though, is that the people who vote for these awards are creators who are who just love Danny Warren Johnson, and retailers who have sold the shit out of that comic book.
That's true. Yeah,
it's a little bit surprising, you know, but like, when you stop and you go, like, well, this is who's voting. Like, yeah, that makes.
But then why doesn't Batman win? Right? Like, why? You know what I mean? Like,
well, I think it would it has to be, you know, somebody who's the moment, somebody who's exciting.
Yeah.
Moment. You know, like, did like Capullo and Scott Snyder win for Batman? Probably.
I don't think they did, but, like, whereas, like, Tom King's won like 8 or 9 Eisners, right? Like, so they do seem to have favorites. That's for sure. Yeah. Not saying Tom isn't deserving. He's our buddy, and I love his work. I'm saying, like, there are people that do seem to, like, peak the meter more than others. Like,
he lost on this night. He was there losing. A bunch of my buddies were there losing. Daniel's the only person I know that won.
Interesting. Now the one that was another big winner, which I will, again, I'm not throwing shade, was Roaming, the graphic novel Roaming. I'm not surprised, because when I do that annual analysis, like the meta analysis of all the best of lists, Roaming was the runaway book last year in terms of, like, made the most lists and had the highest rating.
And you love Tamaki's, but you didn't like this book, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. So I was going to say, like, it's weird to me because, again, like, I think critically it was the most critically acclaimed book of the year, and I very much liked everything else that Mariko and Jill Tamaki have done together. And just to be clear to everyone, they're cousins. They're not. A lot of people think they're sisters. They're cousins, but I've loved every graphic novel they've done together prior to this. So I thought, oh, this is a slam dunk. It's going to be one of my favorite books of the year. And yeah, it just didn't work for me. I guess I shouldn't be surprised that it cleaned up, but I'm like, again, were I a voter, it wouldn't have probably it wouldn't have been like a finalist for me, but that's cool. I mean, hey, and then they won their they each won their adjacent category. Like she won Best Writer, Mariko won Best Writer, and Julian won Best Penciler. So yeah, they really cleaned up as well. Yeah, to me the big news was like I said, Transformers. Was the roaming, like getting a lot of the other big awards. Like it did my heart good to see Nightwing get an award because I think that's been like one of the best superhero books of its run. I very much love to see Peach Momoko get cover artist because she's certainly, I think of the moment she's definitely the it cover person, so that seems fair. I'm sort of numb to like Jordi Belair winning best colorist. She got as many as I mean she's got to be pulling on the man that the award's named for, right? Like she's got to be right up there with him now. I mean, she's got to have 6 or 7 of these now at this point. I mean, like it feels weird. Like how many colorists are there in the industry? Like, and yet, what's that?
Does Jacob Phillips get one? Did he ever win?
Oh, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think he might have won best lettering though. Actually,
interesting.
Yeah. So yeah. So like I said, I mean, I know that. Not everybody cares about the Eisners, but I think it's fun, and to me it's a recognition of the like the creators, and ultimately like if our show's about one thing, I think it's all about that. So
I think Friday won. Speaking
it did. Yep, Friday won. Laura Olympus won for the 3rd year in a row for best webcomic, which is like the only webcomic I actually read, so I'm down for that. So at least I know I'm picking the right one if I'm only going to read one. But yeah, so.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun being there, and then there's a little mixer afterwards, and you get to go commiserate and stuff. And, so that was nice. Got to see people.
Nice. What else we got, Dappy?
Oh, I read speaking of anthologies, and speaking of Tony Fleecs, this week. DC released Super Pet Special, Bitedentity Crisis.
Yes, they did.
And on the cover, as the issue you've all been waiting for, who knew? With a very fun looking cover, the standard cover, of course, with Bitewing in the foreground. I really enjoyed Who Woofs the Watchmen, which was the last story in the book. Which is written and drawn by Kyle Starks. You also have a story featuring Dexstar by Dan Waters and Christopher Mitten. Refuge by Michael W. Conrad and Sami Basri. Jarro and A Starro is Born, written by Alexis Kisarano and art by P.J. Holden. But my favorite story is the one that kicks off this anthology. It's the Super Pets in Pup Pup and Away, with art by Mike Norton and written by our pal Tony Fleecs. And
oh snap! I didn't know you were in this.
What? Yes, come on, quit playing.
I didn't know. I haven't read it yet. I actually have it here.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, sick.
And it's and since Jason hasn't read it yet, I'm not going to go in.
No, dude, it's
but no, I know it's a cute little story. It's not spoiling anything. It's not. This doesn't tie into Absolute Power or anything. But it's a great creative team. I think you might do great work together, Tony. But basically. Dick and Barbara are leaving Bitewing with the Kents in Kansas because they have a wedding to go to. Strictly, it's like a Bonavoya wedding. No kids and no dogs. And so Bitewing makes her way to the barn and is greeted by Crypto and whole rest of the gang. You've got Ace the Bat Hound, you've got Jumpa, Wonder Woman's trusty kangaroo, Robin's Bat Cow, you got Gleek, of course, the Wonder Twins' pet monkey, you've got the Dig, the Green Lantern, and they have to rescue Streaky, Supergirl's cat, and of course they then have to do battle with the person who is pet napping all of these animals, Menagerie Man, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed Bitewing in this story, but it's a fantastic little story with a shit ton of animals. I'm sure Mike had a blast drawing this story. The animals that come barging through when when the day is to be saved. You should have had the Who's Who little inside cover so everybody could know who everybody is. But it was a lot of fun. Poor Bitewing. It's just great. But no, the entire anthology is just a lot of fun. But it's wonderfully bookended by Tony and Mike and Kyle, and Who Woofs the Watchman was seriously a lot of fun, and the Dexter story was good as well. I like Mitten's work as long as he's not doing Jason's jams, but it's a nice story, but as nice as a Dexter story could be. But yeah, definitely pick it up if you haven't yet. But yeah, I had a blast with it. Good work, Tony.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, behind the scenes, I had reached out to David for help figuring out who the villain in this should be, and David had a real good suggestion. And it was my first time working. This is my first DC writing, and so it was my first time obviously working with these editors. And I pitched him this character that David had pitched, and I was like, "Oh, that's perfect. That'll work great." But they were hardcore about using Menagerie Man, and I thought to myself, I'm gonna want to. Baxter's really.
He's upset about you not being able to use the character.
He's confused. But they're obsessed with the idea of using Menagerie Man, and I knew that I was gonna have battles I wanted to fight later in the process, so I was like, I'll give them Menagerie Man. And then later on, if I want to argue about stuff that they want to cut or stuff that they want to change, I'll have, I'm already acting in good faith, So we went with Menagerie Man, who's a Ramona Fraden creation, so I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
And he showed this, I think this is his fourth appearance ever. He's only been in Super Friends.
Awesome.
I'm going to send you a video of Baxter humping, because I think it would be good content for the Patreon.
That's great.
Yeah.
Doing the humpy dance.
But yeah, DC Super Pets, I love making that thing. Mike Norton killed it on that thing, and we had Brad Simpson, who colors Stray Dogs and Feral and Local Man, color it so that it would sort of look like a Stray Dogs.
Love it.
And even though the main cover, which is really neat, because you've got the group from the first story all taking on the Menagerie Man in the background, is by Pete Woods, but there is a variant by Tony Fleecs.
A Tony Fleecs variant. Yeah. I asked. I said, "Hey, can I do a cover for this?" And they said, "Yes."
That's awesome.
Nice. That is.
Look at you.
Yeah, the shop better have my copy in my file.
Oh, they wouldn't do you like that.
Bet not. What you got?
Well, hold on a second here. I was looking up some Eisner trivia. Yeah, listen, I mean, again, it's timely, and I don't think it's probably not going to stand the test of time beyond this. So, y'all know I was super hyped for Blood Hunt, the event at Marvel, because I love the vampires, and I've historically loved the Marvel. I haven't been loving it as much lately, but was hopeful this would kind of pull me back in. I really like the idea that it was going to be just a 5-issue miniseries and not some drawn out 12-issue world-changing type of event where things can get muddy. Obviously, Pepe Larraz's huge draw. We've talked about a few of the issues. It wrapped up this week, issue 5 of 5. And I, based on the feedback I've gotten from our Slack, EOC Slack, most people are pretty disappointed or like low-key hating on it. So I'm gonna just chalk it up to the fact that I love the Avengers and I love vampires. So like, I read this issue and was not in any way disappointed. Now, did I think it was like some event that I'm going to be talking about in 20 years? No, but that's fine to me because this just felt like a really cool 5-issue Avengers arc. And again, maybe for some people they're going to feel ripped off because it was an event and we're called out and there's all these spin-outs, like, and that's fine, like, to each his own. But like for me, who's been kind of like starving for classic Avengers storytelling now for the better part of 5 years, this hit me right. I mean, you give me superpowered vampires and and then you give me a quick hitting sort of series that pulls a lot of the cool supernatural, like Marvel Knights type of characters into it with the Avengers. Like, that works for me. So I enjoyed it. Do I think it was great? No. I mean, am I going to sit here and say, if we do a best of events top 5 list, am I going to pull it out? No, but I liked it, and I feel like I'm guessing before you guys, I'm gathering from the initial feedback that I'm very much in the minority on it.
As far as
enjoying it, like thinking about, like, I liked it. I mean, again, I don't think it was like great, but I liked it. Like I closed the page in the 5th issue and thought, oh, okay, it was fun. Like, I'm here for it. Like, again, but I feel like a lot of people have real issue with it. Okay, so I don't want to spoil it. It came out today or yesterday, but a lot of people seem to be frustrated that the conclusion of this event, such as it's an event, is essentially just setting up the new status quo in the Marvel Universe with the new villain or the new antagonist. And I guess I can understand why that would feel like you're like maybe you just ended the movie and you didn't realize it was the first of 3 movies, and you're like, wait, there was no conclusion. I guess I can understand that. I mean, I didn't feel that way, but it seems like a lot of people are feeling some kind of way about that.
Okay, so totally off topic. It's Thanksgiving. It's we're at Renee's old condo, where she lived when we met, and her parents are over for dinner, and her stepfather. We're all in the living room, me and her stepfather, and we're watching Fellowship of the Ring, and the movie, of course, ends with Sam and Frodo in the boat heading towards Mordor, and it ends, and Renee's stepfather looks at me and he's like, "That's the end of the movie?" I'm like, yeah, you don't know this, and he doesn't, but I'm like, you don't know the Lord of the Rings trilogy? And it's like, and he's like, the fuck did I watch this for? I was like, so we had a great conversation about that.
Dune last Thanksgiving.
No, definitely, no, I didn't want to fall asleep during it, but it was no, only because it's long. But no, I can understand why some people would feel some kind of. I mean, listen, it's comic books, so if it's not hitting you over the head right at the start, I could see people feeling some kind of way because that there's something coming out later this fall that builds off of this. I'm excited for that. Yeah, I mean they squashed the big bad in this, which is what we would have wanted. There just also happens to be fallout from this that will play out later, and I can't be upset at a publisher for that, but I can see people. I mean, listen, I'm the guy who felt that that Green Arrow and Black Canary one shot would have been an absolute perfect comic if it ended 3 pages sooner. So I didn't this wasn't a bait and switch because Blood Hunt ended, so you got your 5 issues and all those tie-ins, and you could still enjoy that story. But yes, that and you kind of did get, if you just want to look at the I mean, you've got that last final page with the Avengers and Brielle and Miles, and that's a satisfying conclusion. It's just you've also got a little bit of an epilogue with Strange and Doom, and then that, of course. So you can end the book where you want to end it, or you can be upset that it ends on a page where you have to wait a few weeks to find out where we're going from here. You're not going to please everybody, obviously. No matter how this event ended, someone was going to find something to complain about. The art is absolutely amazing. It could have been, McKay could have just given us a silent issue. I wouldn't have cared, but I'm not. This didn't break my heart. I'm absolutely
these things are
okay
always about
with
expectations. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I did not know that, we were going. I mean, because I didn't know how this was going to end. I didn't know. I mean, obviously we knew what was going on with Strange and shit's happening, and Stephen and Clea went to go see Doom in the previous issue, in issue 4. So we knew that there was going to be Doom is Doom. So he's always after that one thing. He wants to be Sorcerer Supreme, and now he actually has. He can strike a deal with Stephen, and so. Now I'm kind of excited to see where we're going from there, because these are two dudes who, holy crap, like they've had a respectable, they've been respectfully at odds for decades. So I'm absolutely fine to see where we go from here. But yeah, I can understand why people would feel some kind of way, but I'm solidly more in your camp, Jason, than any of the naysayers.
Nice. Did you read this, Tom?
I did not, but I'm interested in checking it out. I like the idea of the red band version and the regular version.
Yeah, that is cool.
That's cool. I love artists. But it sounds like you guys were both looking for something to sort of draw you into the Marvel Universe, and it sounds like it sort of did, right? Like, that way it worked.
Yeah, like in this, right. I think more, like the way I more view it is that I'm so over events, and I have been for so long, that I no longer ascribe any need for them to be quote unquote important. Like, that's almost an annoyance to me now, right? Because it's like, so if you're gonna, all I want is you to, like, I go in kind of with a guardrail around it, saying I'm gonna read this for what it is, and if it entertains me, cool. If it doesn't, oh well. Like, I no longer judge it by like, how much did they change, and what do I think of the changes, and how long are they going to last? I don't. We were on that hamster wheel for so many times that I became totally numb to it, to the point of not even caring about that kind of thing. So it's like yeah, I just faded in. Again, I'm an easy mark of vampire stories. I mean, I'm probably the world's biggest fan of DC versus vampires, although it does have a second series coming out, so it must be done okay. But I feel like no one else ever talked about that book other than us, and I love that book too. So it's just it's like these are Woodrow pleasures, like you give me like getting a team together, you give me a vampire, it's just my stilo, it's my stilo. Like, whereas if you give me a Ghost Rider event, I'd be like bored to tears, like I'd have no interest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But Vince would be on here every week being like, Dad, did you read the Ghost Rider event? It's so great.
It's the best thing ever.
So Blood Hunt, and I have to say I read most of the tie-ins, and as you might expect, I think they are absolutely missable. Like they're like I think, which is true. Like, you do not need to read any of the tie-ins. Do some of them work well as standalone things? Yeah, I think so. Like I think we all agree that Union Jack the Ripper was the best. It was fun. I thought the anthology joint was fun. But again, like totally superfluous. Didn't need to have read them, and they very much varied in quality. Some are completely like, why are they bothering making this book, or but that's just the nature of that thing. So like, to me, the 5 issues that we got of it, I really found quite entertaining. But I'm sorry to those who didn't, because that's always a bummer when you have high hopes and those hopes are dashed against a cliff at the end.
Yeah.
How does it compare to DC versus Vampires? Which one's better?
I think DC versus Vampires is better, but simply because it, as we've talked about a lot, DC is much more comfortable with Elseworld stories. Marvel's never been quite open to that, like, other than when they do the Ultimate stuff. And so Blood Hunt is in continuity in as much as that matters these days, right? So, like, they have to get out, like, they have to work their way out of it now. Like one of the postscripts is that the vampire that they end up beating, and again, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that they beat the vampire at the end. Varney is his name. Because he's gone, the people he turned are still vampires, but like the Jubilee kind, like they're daywalkers, like
the daywalker,
yeah. And again, I hope this isn't a spoiler that bothers people too much if you don't already know, but Miles Morales is as of the end of the series, he is still a vampire. Only he's a daywalking vampire, but he's not cured, and he's freaking out about that. So, like, I presume, and I'm probably like 5-6 issues behind on the Miles Morales book, but I am still buying it. I presume for at least some period of time he will be a vampire in his own book. So, like, that's a different kind of thing, whereas in DC versus Vampires, it was an Elseworlds where literally, like, most of the DC heroes get killed or get turned into vampires. It's like, and that's fun. Like, that's super fun. But, like, they can be more extreme with what they do with those pieces because they're not in the universe with all the other stuff. It's just its own pocket universe, right? Like, I mean, at one point in the first or second issue, Green Lantern creates a power ring of a blender and blends up the Wonder Twins in it, like to a bloody pulp. Like, he kills them, he shreds them, and like makes them into mush. Like, that's just like, it was like fun over the top shit like that, like, which you didn't get in this, because again, they have to. These pieces are still in play, so they couldn't do anything too crazy.
Dig it. We'll check them both out.
Word up.
Word up. What else we got? Is that it? Do we do two?
No, bro.
No. It's one. It's one long episode.
Just while Vince is gone, or do you switch back?
No, what?
No, we went back a couple weeks ago.
Like 2 weeks ago, we made the change.
Thank goodness. I'm sitting here going like, oh man, are they gonna go like? Okay.
Oh, you're thinking you got another 2 hours in you?
What else is Baxter gonna help while I'm on this thing? No. I mean, it's we're approaching the 2 hour mark. So I mean, if there's anything else before we get to In Your Travels, what else you got?
I'll just mention the DC news because it is the most comic-y of all the stuff we talked about. And credit to them for this because it was kind of got me a little hyped. First of all, the old DC logo is back.
Yes,
which that seems to be a universally beloved decision. So kudos to them for that. And that will, as my understanding, that will be the new corporate logo. It will be on the movies. That will be on the merch. Toys.
Yeah, I saw it. Gunn was wearing a DC Studios T-shirt, and so I was all excited about that. And I was like, now if only he had some sway on the print side. And Austin said that it's going to be on the covers as well.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm super stoked.
And so DC doesn't have like panels at San Diego anymore, but there is always a Jim Lee. He always hosts a panel, so effectively, like, they do have a panel, right? Because he's the head of DC. But and at that, they introduced they gave extra details about something they had leaked a few days before, and then they introduced a whole new thing. So the thing that they leaked days before and then fleshed out was the Absolute DC line. That is basically like their version of the Ultimates, where it's like it's different origins. The heroes are a little, or maybe even a lot different in terms of their origins, or something's different about their whole aura. And it's as I believe as Scott Snyder said at the panel, he said if main DCU is Superman energy, Absolute DC is Darkseid energy. Now I have to admit, I have no fucking idea what that means. It sounds to me like it means it's going to be like darker, more like, which gets me thinking about the the Zack Snyder verse. So I hope that's not what he meant to imply, but he said the heroes are the underdogs. So again, like, you're not, like, I'm not getting huge great vibes off of that. Like, not like, okay, great. But where they have me is with the creative teams. You've got Absolute Batman, which is Scott Snyder writing it. Okay, whatever. He's written a lot of Batman. But Nick Dragotta drawing it, and you give me a Dragotta Batman, I'm here for that. Absolute Superman, which is Jason Aaron, who we just saw do a couple issues of action, taking over Absolute Superman with Rafa Sandoval on art. Absolute Wonder Woman, which is the aforementioned and friend of all of ours, Kelly Thompson, writing with Hayden Sherman on art. So if there's ever a book that like Vince is going to be torn inside about whether he should read or not. And then, last but not least, Absolute Green Lantern, written by Al Ewing, who's making the jump to DC, which is kind of neat. And the artist is Lindsay, who I'm not that familiar with. But either way, I got in trouble on our Slack for being a little dismissive of this, in the sense that, like, all I meant to say at the time, and just to be clear to people, like, this isn't interesting to me in any way. Like, I especially because with DC, like, I think DC always has do new versions of its things. Like, that's what makes DC different than Marvel. Like, they're always doing alternate universes and Elseworlds. Like, that's just part of it. There are 52 different Batman running around. Like, we know that already. So it's like, and I don't, much like I'm not into the new version of the Ultimates, I don't need like a new version of of these universes. I'm fine with the old version, like, jumping in and out as I'm interested. I don't, but I recognize that maybe these books aren't for me. They're for theoretically bringing in a new audience. And again, as a business person, I'm super skeptical that will work. I think if you're going to bring new people into the world of DC, you do it through films and video games and web stuff. And like, I don't think you're bringing in, massive amounts of 12 to 15-year-olds by putting out pamphlets that are only available in special stores. But anyway, but are you guys more excited about it than I am?
I'm definitely excited about. Yeah, I guess I am. I love Kelly Thompson. I love Jason Aaron. Scott Snyder I like a bunch of the time, and I talked to Dragata about this thing, and just hearing like what he has to say about it sounds fucking cool. Like, how much did they say about what the books are? Like, did they say anything?
Well, like I said, they said that it's going to be about like dark side energy. The heroes are underdogs, like, so it sounds a bit more dystopian to me, but they didn't go beyond that. No.
So it might be from the Lunar retailer thing that I went to, but they talked a little bit about him in there. And so the Superman story is like the only things that they're keeping are it's Kansas and he's landed from another planet. So it's like a strong immigrant story. And I think it leans more into that, more into like the Kansas of it and the immigrant of it than the other, like all the other Superman tropes, Daily Planet, Lois, Lex. I'm sure Lex probably factors in somewhere, they'll probably, use that as a reveal at some point that that's a person that exists in this story. But it sounds like it's sort of like a ground up reimagining. And similarly, Batman, like the reason that he's so yoked in those drawings is because he's not rich. Like it's Bruce Wayne and he's really an underdog in that he doesn't have like a fortune to turn into crime fighting. Like he has to do it from the ground up, like you were saying. So like they made a reason for him to be like this He-Man because he doesn't have like armor and bat wings and Batmobiles and stuff like that. He's just a crime fighter who is sort of like takes out that question of what everybody's always just like, well, how come Bruce Wayne doesn't just invest in programs for the lower income people
right yeah,
stuff like that. It's sort of like that's not possible in this world. It's just a regular broke guy fighting crime. And Kelly wasn't there, so I didn't hear what the pitch on that was. But yeah, Hayden Sherman and Kelly Thompson, I would buy that no matter what the character was. So that's what I know about it. I'm excited about him. David?
Listen, it's DC reimagining their heroes. There's certain characters I'm always going to check out, minus the Earth One stuff. None of that really ever appealed to me. So I didn't. Which, talking about the way the Batman or Bruce Wayne is being presented kind of makes me think of that. But again, not having read the Jeff Johns Earth One, I think it was Johns who did the Batman and JMS did the Superman. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be there to check out the first issues. I'm still kind of partial to the main line, so I don't see this necessarily replacing anything for me, but I'm still there to check things out. I've always been a fan of What If, and when DC came out with Elseworlds, I was giddy to see alternate versions of characters that I grew up loving. So I like I did with Ultimate, the recent Ultimate stuff with Marvel. I don't see why I wouldn't give the Absolute line a shot. But we'll see how they land. I'm a big Hayden fan, and seeing her take on Wonder Woman, I'll check that out. So yeah, I'll be there to see what they're offering, but I'm not going to make any grand statements as to whether or not they'll stink out the gate or how long I'll stick with them. But yeah, no, absolutely not. Not with these creative teams. There's no way they're not going to announce something like this in San Diego. And
but I would say like just like the new. I mean, the Ultimate books are like they're all well done. Like very great creative teams.
Absolutely, yes.
That's kind of more where I'm.
Cicchetto's art is absolutely fantastic, and I mean, I just wish I was digging the story that Hickman was telling for Spider-Man, and I am enjoying Ultimate Black Panther. Not that it's nothing. I mean, and I like Hill's work because I've read a lot of Brian Hill stuff, and I've enjoyed his work. But this version of Black Panther, it's not making anybody forget Priest's Run or even Hudlin stuff or even the Coates stuff. So I mean, it's a Black Panther story, but it's not like it's a top 5 Black Panther, at least not yet. But yeah, no, I absolutely it's DC and it's old school DC characters, so I absolutely wish them the best. And if it no, I'm just saying I'm not reading it going, oh, this is gonna. I'm absolutely trying to be as positive as can be. I'm not trying to downplay this at all. I know. I mean, because there were conversations on our Slack about it, and you've got people who were just like absolutely giddy because shoot, I don't have the Slack open. Was it Will or Mitchell? But yeah, someone is absolutely looking forward to reading it with their door. So yeah, I'm so.
Mitchell was like upset about and I felt bad because I was like, oh man, like I shouldn't have harshed someone's group, like, and I wasn't trying to, but again, I was just being honest.
No, you weren't. Right.
Didn't feel like it was a big, like, again, I'll try them too. My thing is like I don't find taking like a thing about these iconic characters and changing it as being like revelatory. What I mean is like Tony, you said like Bruce Wayne isn't rich. Okay, then to me, he's not Bruce Wayne then. Like, Bruce Wayne is this awesome character who's had a million stories told about them, many of which I've enjoyed, many of which I could take or leave. But, like, the reason the character's been around to have 10,000 different stories on it is because it's a fucking awesome idea. And so, like, if you're going to, like, to me, but, like, if you take each component piece away, then it's not Batman, right? So, like, there are you could tell an awesome story about a guy who doesn't have any money, and because his family's killed, becomes a vigilante. That's interesting to me, but like it doesn't become more interesting because you call him Bruce Wayne. If you follow me, like that, like that's where I'm. It's like I don't need you to, like, it's just like for me the character is like, interesting because of who they are. If you change it, it's just something else. It could also be well done and interesting. But I wouldn't care if you called him Joe Jones. Like, now I realize commercially, calling him Bruce Wayne is going to sell a lot more comics. So I get that. Like, I understand why they're doing that. But, like, as a fan who reads a ton of non-Marvel and DC stuff, like, just tell me a cool story. Like, Local Man's a perfect example, right? Like Local Man is a superhero book outside of, like, well, I mean, there's some continuity, obviously you're playing with. But on the stands otherwise, that it stands alone in terms of its continuity. That makes it more interesting to me, like, that these aren't characters that I know from some continuity, like, like for me. that aren't connected to 10 other books on the shelves. Like, I find that more interesting. Now, maybe commercially, if you have the rights to, call them the Justice League, I don't like that. I don't know, but like, to me,
I know
the conceit of it, though, the conceit of what's supposed to be different about Absolute feels strange to me, because to me, I don't know why that would be a selling point. But again, I'll judge it when it comes out.
I can confidently say those will outsell Local Man.
Fair. And then last but not least, actually probably the thing I was most excited about from the comic side was the other thing is DC All In, which is like their latest in 57 different rebrandings, but they did make the point that they're calling it an initiative. It's not an event. And the whole point of it is that, and this is a quote from the panel, they want it to be the best jumping on point in years. So part of it is that every title at DC in October starts a new arc, which I think is pretty cool. So every single book will be a jumping on point in October. And they announced 3 new books, which are all pretty major. New Gods, written by Ram V and Evan Cagle, so the team from fucking Darn Runner.
Ooh, yes.
New Gods book, I am here for that, bigly. Wade and Mora, who have been, making arguably the best superhero comic together with World's Finest for, the last 2-3 years, are going to Justice League for Justice League Unlimited, which I think is amazing. And then, last and certainly not least, and I think so wonderful, JSA is coming back, written by Jeff Lemire, with art by, and this person was new to me, their last name is Olortegui. I didn't know them until I saw the preview images. Looks wonderful, but the draw there obviously is Jeff, because, as I'm sure many people that listen to this podcast know, Jeff he loves DC. He's done a lot of work for them, but he also, Black Hammer is pretty much his love letter to that era and that those teams, and now he's getting to play with the actual JSA, which I just think is going to be so awesome. So I'm really excited about all of that. And admittedly, part of it is expectations. I've been enjoying DC Comics a lot more than Marvel Comics the last few years. So this has me excited. But if you're on the other side of that, then you're probably not as excited. I realize it's relative, but I'm super stoked for that.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I'm pretty much all in on anything Wade and Moore are going to do, but you're going to give me a Justice League book. It's like, damn, I don't know what deal I made, but something is keeping me alive only so I can read Wade and Moore comic books. As far as I absolutely even if Dawn Runner was about, the subject matter was something I did not care about, it's the character development is strong and the art is absolutely fantastic. So while I am not the biggest New Gods fan on the planet, I will definitely be checking that out based on the creative team.
Respect. Tony's like, I'm trying to get myself a DC All-In book to write.
That's it, yeah. Maybe there's a backup story in that Justice League book.
Hey, listen, it all starts that way. You write it, you contribute to an anthology, and then it goes from there. That's how Tom King got his break.
Is that right?
The anthology is the new tryout book, yeah. It's the new DC showcase.
All right, well, let's get this going. I'm gonna be all in myself.
Love it.
That's right.
Those guys are very good to work with. I do have Marvel books coming out. I have Wolverine.
Yes, you do.
Venom or Wolverine, one of those tie-in books that are completely unnecessary that you talk about.
The check clears, right?
It sure did. Me and Tim Seeley and Kev Walker tying into the next Marvel crossover, or perhaps the crossover from a different office that runs concurrently or whatever. I think it just, number 2 is in the newest solicits. That's a 3-issue thing, so I guess it'll be out in like a month.
The best part of Venom War and More Symbiotes is that my boy Tony's getting a paycheck. That's the best news out of that.
Let's go. Yeah. Also, there are zombiotes. There's symbiotes that are zombies, so pretty exciting.
That's awesome.
Did you see the Venom trailer when you went and saw it?
Yes.
Cool, when Venom got on a horse, that was great for me. I'm not nuts about those movies, but I was all in for that shit. I was like, you telling me there's going to be a Venom horse?
The horse.
That's true. There was a Venom horse. Yeah.
I don't know why it really pushed my buttons. I saw that and I was like,
I got to say, for some reason, the one time in my life where I did enjoy symbiotes when Steggy and Cates were doing their thing, whatever that like first event they had, there were like 18 related events.
Yeah.
But when they had the symbiote Tyrannosaurus Rex, I marked out for that. I was like, that's fucking cool.
They had that in Old Man Logan too.
That's what it was. That's probably where I saw it. Yeah, I thought that was awesome.
Oh yeah. Because Miller brought that out. Yeah. Miller and McNiven.
Yeah, for sure. Did you guys talk about X-Force or NYX?
No, I haven't read NYX yet. Although but I meant to. I just haven't. But I heard good things. But no, we didn't talk about it. I really enjoyed the first issue of X-Force. Now, again, kind of like with the caveat I said about Blood Hunt. Like, do I think the first issue of X-Force is some like groundbreaking thing? Do I think do I think it's going to rival the aforementioned Rick Remender Uncanny X-Force? No, I do not.
No.
But did I like it for what it was? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are characters I really dig, most of them. I think Marcus Toe is someone I've known for a long time. I was getting commissions from him back when our boy Tony was doing the chibi commissions too. Marcus was doing chibi commissions. It was nice to see him on a big Marvel book. He's a Canadian, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that so I dug it. I think that like the setup was cool. I like the team. I wasn't very familiar with Jeffrey Thorne, who's the writer of it before this. I'm intrigued by who Tank is. There's like a mystery character. We don't know who the Tank is. It's a metal mask wearing super strong person. Maybe they are just called Tank and they're a new character. I don't know. But I assume it's someone we know that's under the mask for some reason. But you've got Captain Britain and Rachel Summers, who are now a couple, which I'm down for. And I love Sage very much. So it's Sage and then Forge and then Deadpool. So I could see this being a team that a lot of people don't have interest in. Like, some of these characters are hot button characters for people, but I like them, and it was fun. A team first issues of a team book are going to be an easy sell for me. But this one, I have high hopes that it will entertain me at a minimum.
It seemed like it was hard. Like, when I'm reading it, I'm just like, who's this for? In as much as, remember during the Krakoa, there was like that Zeb Wells book that had like, God, what was that? The team was so random that you're just like, who did they make this for? Like, what was the pitch that they're just like, well, we'll get all the fans of God, who's that fucking like Humpty Dumpty looking guy from X Factor?
Strong guy?
No. He looks like an egg.
Oh, Orphan. You mean, yeah.
Right. What was the Zeb Wells book that I'm talking about? Was it Exterminators or was it? It was sort of like second round of Krakoa books that came out. That's sort of what.
Hellions, right?
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
Interestingly, yeah. Where like the whole team is like, it's got some hitters on there.
Right, because Nanny and Orphan Maker were in it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. From the old X Factor, Fall of the Mutants era stuff.
Speaking of Deadpool and Wolverine, it doesn't seem like it has like an anchor being, especially it has Deadpool, but it says in the very beginning that he's like guest starring Deadpool. And so you're just like, oh man, so it is just like Forge and Phoenix and Captain Britain are like the stars of this thing.
And that guest starring, it kind of knocked the wind out of the sails of the joke in the issue later on, where Betsy's like, and no Deadpool.
Yeah,
and Forge is like, yeah, and but if you read the roll call, you see that. And I'm like, man, why? Like, you couldn't just. I get it, but like, just
he was on
sometimes he is on the cover, right? Yeah. So I mean, it is what it is, and it didn't.
I thought the wrap up of the Deadpool character reminded me a lot of my buddies Dennis and Chris Burnham's Doom Patrol. Like, it felt like one of those issues, like sort of like a one-shot monster story where there's like a unique way that these superheroes have to deal with the monster in the issue. I thought it was interesting, at least. It sort of reminded me of that. I don't know if it reminded you guys of that, or if you read that book.
Very much did, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd made the connection before you said this, but yeah, I see what you're saying though.
Yeah. Fun. I dug you haven't read NYX yet, but
Not yet. No.
NYX feels like it's a little more my speed. So it'll be interesting to hear what you think about the two, like comparatively next time.
Now it has nothing to do with Laura, or it does?
She's in there, unless that's Honey Badger. I'm not sure. I'm not all caught up all the way on the girl Wolverine continuity where we left off. I don't think they mentioned her name in this, but there's a girl Wolverine.
Well, there were 2 Lauras running around. Now there's only one again.
Yeah. So this is either her. Was Honey Badger the other one, or is that a third?
No. There were 2 Laura. Like there was the one that was trapped in the was trapped in the vault where they were aging,
right,
for hundreds of years, and then so there was like an old Laura, and then the normal age Laura. But
this first issue of this, she shows up as sort of like the third character. It's mostly a Miss Marvel story, and then she ends up making friends with one of the Cuckoos, and then
Esme, Phoebe.
It is. Hold on, I'm flipping here. My Baxter's just wagging his beautiful little dumb tail.
Got hardwood floors in that mansion, huh?
Yes, sir. Here in my room. She meets her, and when it's cute because Kamala Khan is already a fan. Sophie.
There you go.
The one she makes friends with, and then spoilers at the end. The other ones are on the other side of this thing. They're
Cuckoo versus Cuckoo, huh?
One Cuckoo stands apart.
Love it.
Yeah, so it looks like it's going to be one of the X-23s, Miss Marvel, Sophie, Anole, and Prodigy.
Oh, I'm down for that. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, I like those guys.
Who's the art on it?
It's written by Lansing and Kelly. Artist Raul Anglo. Anglo?
Don't know the person.
Good. It looks, it looks like a Brazilian X-Men artist. Colors.
I think I saw a cover of an upcoming issue where Anole is in the sewers, a la Wolverine under the basement of the Hellfire Club.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love that.
That was. Yeah, I haven't read a ton of stories with the character, but yeah, I'm fine.
He's a real one.
Yeah,
I was real big Academy X and New X-Men back in those days. I love those books.
I've always been a fan of the young X-Men books, like in whatever iteration.
Yeah.
Of it. Yeah.
Yeah, from New Mutants going forward.
Like the old Aliens was fun. Like all of it. Yeah, they said. So yeah.
I'm sure it's not possible, but it would, for me, it would be pretty neat if Tank is Roger Box. It's not going to happen, but I would love to see
he's
it.
not. I mean, it's more drawn like he's wearing a suit of armor than he's like a robot.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah. I mean, obviously there must be something to the reveal because like what would be the point of making him a mystery, right? Otherwise, but yeah.
So you guys didn't get the new. I text on the text thread. You didn't get the new Brubaker yet. They didn't send you a PDF or anything.
They did, but generally with that one, I don't want to read it watermarked. Like I want to sit there and hold it and read it. So me and Celie went to American Library Association like 2 weeks before Comic-Con in San Diego also, and so I got the reader copy or whatever. The galley copy.
Oh, the advanced.
Galley, that's what it's called.
Yeah,
it's a soft cover.
On you noobs.
I don't know because we didn't have galleys. We were just giving out regular trades to those librarians.
Yeah, well, Dap had gotten me the galley copy of The Road, which I talked about.
Oh, that's awesome.
It actually comes out, I think, next week is the actual.
Oh, is it August? I thought it was later in the fall.
Is
That's
it?
cool.
I mean,
Okay.
maybe I'm just keeping hope. I don't know. It's coming out soon, though. I know that.
Yeah, I remember seeing it in previews. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, we should wrap this puppy up, I think.
Indeed. So, thank you, of course, everyone, for listening. I am, fingers crossed, everything will be back to normal next week. Unless Jason and I get a postcard saying, yeah, fuck you all, I'm staying here now. So,
just seeing his peoples, maybe he's going to feel such a connectivity to his peoples that he's going to.
And hey, I mean, they've got internet over there. I'm sure we could still probably. I mean, our schedule won't change. He can work around us, so that's fine. But yeah, we absolutely appreciate you all hanging with us. Of course, we thank Tony for spending his evening here as well. In your travels, speaking of Tony, we'll have a Fleecs-O-Rama. I caught up on Local Man as I wait for the fallout from someone strangling his ex. But yeah, and where else are you going to get a comic featuring a former vice president? But yeah, I thought the last couple of issues, this arc with some massive changes in Crossjack, in Jack's life, and both personal with his family and of course with former third gen members. It's been this. I mean, I'm not. It seems to be currently darker than it started, and I don't know if that was always the plan, but it's a heavier book than when it started, I feel. But and it's still great though. I mean, the art's fantastic, of course, but seeing the past catch up to Jack and the consequences of actions and all that, it's and I have to, I don't want to know, because I'll just wait until I get my hands on the 13th issue before we get to the Images of Tomorrow. But and it's 13 and then 25,
Right.
Okay. But yeah, the I don't know. I really feel like that Brian was being awfully deliberate when telling Jack what's been going on, and I can't really say that I blame the man, and so I got to see if I'm right about that, and like I said, and this, the last page with Jack and Inga before we get to a cameo to one of the original Image heroes on the last page of the main story of issue 12. Local Man just continues to be an absolute blast, even though, like I said, it's a little dark and heavy as we near the end. But I am excited to see where the current present day story wraps up before we jump to a year in the future. But yeah, in your travels, if you haven't been, I know when is it just going to be 2 trades when all is said and done, or is there enough for 3?
No, the second trade's out now, and then
okay, that's what I thought.
Third trade will include this and 25.
Excellent. Okay,
and we'll see what happens after that. But yeah, I'm excited for you to see 13. It definitely, we are sort of in like that third act, like end of the second act.
I love the issue jump that we have coming up. I love that. Very clever.
Yes.
Very excited for you to see issue 13. It's maybe my favorite one we've done. and it has a couple of the things in it that we wrote like in the very beginning that we were like, oh, we definitely have to at some point get to this, and we have to definitely at some point get to this, so that it has big stuff in it, and then issue 25 has more big stuff in it too. So
have you guys been selling the art or no?
There is none. It's
oh, you both do it all digital?
Seeley does most of it digital. He's got a couple pieces. I know he sold like that issue 1 cover, and then mine's all digital.
That's gross, dude.
I'm sorry. But generally I have to draw that book in about 2.5 to 3 weeks. So I'm cranking on the iPad. No time for scanning, no time for light boxing, any of that stuff.
All right. Well, fair enough.
Sorry.
It's still a great book. I mean,
Thank you.
It is, absolutely. Yeah, in your travels.
Physical manifestations of it out there.
There absolutely should be.
In your travels, I am so happy to have this in my hands. I backed it some time ago, as I'm sure many of you did. It's the spiritual successor to another fun book we talked about back in the day, and this is Ryder's Intergalactic Guide to Robots, written and drawn by Jake Parker. We've been big supporters of Jake's work for a long time. I say it's the spiritual successor because he did a Kickstarter 2 or 3 years ago about a guide to spaceships, and we talked about it. It was kind of like half Ohatmu style look at spaceships and half narrative, and that's exactly the conceit of this as well, only it's this time focused on robots. The premise is that a man who runs a robotics company was brutally murdered. His wife or his ex-wife is being his wife rather is being charged with the murder, because when they showed up at the scene, she was kind of like there holding him, whatever. She solicits the help of a private detective, Humphrey Bogart style guy, who is an expert in the underbellies of the robot world, and they think a robot did this, and he tries to solve the crime. But through all that, we get, just as Jake did with the spaceship book, these wonderful encyclopedic pages that talk about all the different types of robots that exist. And they're, some are very generic, like some are very specific, and it's just a fun look into Jake, who's super creative and loves character design. And, as someone who, credit to Ohatmu for getting me into this crazy hobby, this kind of thing's right up my alley. He's also a stickler for panel layout and structure and fonts, and so it's just a very clean book. It's super entertaining. Like sometimes, especially the more esoteric characters, like there's these mermaid robots named Sea Pal and Sea Maid, and then there's like these racing robots that look like big dogs, and it's just fun stuff. It's very, very wildly creative stuff, and it's his chance to almost like take really neat, awesome thematic sketch doodles, and instead of putting out a sketchbook, he makes a narrative around it, so it just feels like a much richer experience. Highly recommend it. You can get it from Jake Parker's website directly. JP Comics is his imprint, and I think really almost anything, if not everything he's ever done, is worth a read. And the other thing I'll mention is it's all ages stuff by design, so perfectly suitable for your kiddos to read, and you can enjoy it too. So big fan of it. Hope we have a 3rd volume coming up down the road, but check out Ryder's Intergalactic Guide to Robots.
Nice. That looks really cool.
Nice. Yeah, it does.
In your travels, a book you might not have heard of. It hasn't been on the shelves in a long time. It's Saga by K1. Issue number 67 came out, I think, today, this week.
Yep.
I got it this week, and I read it today, and it has been so long since one came out that I had forgotten major plot points. That's the frustrating thing about Saga. It's definitely my favorite book. I love Brian K. Vaughan. I love Fiona Staples. I love the characters in this and the story, but I almost feel like every time a new arc comes out, I have to reread the hardcovers that I have in preparation for it, which isn't such a bad thing unless you're making 5 comics at the same time.
I did to your point, I reread the first 60 issues right before 61 through 66 came out, which was last year. 61 came out in January 2023, and then 66 came out in September of 2023. So yeah, it it had been 9 months since we got a Saga issue.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's sort of how they're going to do it now. They're going to do one arc a year.
I'm fine with that though, man. It's so good. Like, yeah.
It's just become Saga season because it is, like basically half a year, right? Like half of the year there's Saga, half of the year there's not. That's fine.
Best mainstream book of the last decade, in my opinion.
Yeah, whatever they want to do to tell the best story that they want to tell.
It's terrific, and I love in this one that they've, last time they were on the run and they had joined sort of like these space pirates. They're sort of like shipping, like sort of shady. They weren't quite pirates, but they were more like smugglers maybe.
Yeah, that's more accurate. Yep.
Yeah, and then now they have. It seems like they've joined the circus, and that's super fun. And like every new place they go to, we meet these new characters. And then the thing that I had forgotten about was that I totally forgot that Sophie died. And so then I'm just like, I got to reread. I got to go back and look at this because that seems very important to the will and to that whole side of it. I don't know. I don't remember how it happened, so I got to go back and look at it. But fun in this one, and I like where Hazel's at, and I like introducing. I like how her little brother Prince Robot is still sort of like in his feels because of how he feels about her, presumably, and then also sort of meeting this new character who's going to be her best friend. Or at least that's what they're teasing us with. Very intriguing, the last page of this. Saga, in your travels, check it out. If you've never read it, they're about to reprint it in these cute little digest size sagas, which I think we may also do with Stray Dogs. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Also, check out Batman Cape Crusader, which all dropped on, as we record today, it dropped, all the entire first season dropped.
Oh.
That is... Yeah, for of course, shout out to Hassan, who told us this morning how great the entire season was. Because he, but no, all kidding aside, he did remind me. I had forgotten that it was coming out today. But it's for those that don't know, it's actually Bruce Timm's return to animation for the first time in a long time, and it is written. The showrunner was none other than Mr. Ed Brubaker. So, Ed Brubaker and Bruce Timm getting together to tell Batman detective stories. I mean, that's strong stuff. So I'm Holden and I are going to jump into that tomorrow night. Beth's away. We're gonna have a Batman-O-Rama tomorrow night. So
my buddy Mark Bernardin's in there too. They got a few like cool names writing on this season.
Yeah, I don't. Right. Yeah, I should say there is a whole. Right. There's an entire writing team. I should. But Ed's the showrunner. Yeah.
We'll probably start it this weekend. I completely forgot about it until I got an email from McFarlane Toys doing action figures to announce the release of the new show. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I know Minnie Driver's in it as a female penguin, which is interesting.
Oh, okay.
That's it for that one.